Enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I was tricked by human traffickers and sold into the Lu residence, a place once renowned throughout the capital. An ancestor had passed the high imperial exam and even served as the Grand Chancellor. But times change and glory cannot last forever. In recent years, the descendants of the Lu family have gradually declined. With no talented individuals left, they had to retreat and live in seclusion in Yuzhou. Even so, a starved camel is still bigger than a fat horse. Though the Lu residence was past its golden age, in a place like Yuzhou, it was still considered a prestigious and noble family, one that no one dared to disrespect. The Lu family was a scholarly and aristocratic family, steeped in etiquette and rules. Therefore, the requirements for the maids in the residence were also extremely strict. By tradition, they usually bought girls around 7 or 8 years old and brought them to steward Mama Wang for 2 years of rigorous training. They learned rules, female etiquette, and practiced needlework and embroidery. They even hired a knowledgeable steward to teach them literacy, so that even as servants, they would not be illiterate and embarrass their masters. After 2 years, their abilities would be assessed to determine their rank. Those with good aptitude and a dignified appearance could be selected as personal maids to the young masters or young ladies. At the very least, they would become second-rank maids, allowed to enter the master's chambers, giving them a chance to be noticed by those above. As for those who were clumsy and poor learners, they could only do menial tasks like sweeping, cleaning laundry and carrying water in the courtyards. These young girls, though still children, quickly understood what future and destiny meant. Everyone studied diligently, hoping to one day catch the master's eye and change their lives. Only I learned all the rules, did all the work, but when it came to needlework and embroidery, my hands were clumsy, and when learning to read, my mind was foggy. Every day, I followed Mama Wang to sweep the courtyards, water the flowers, and tend the grass. I learned everything superficially, mastering nothing. Mama Wang was a senior in the residence. She had been sold to the Lu family as a child. Later, the matron at the time, the grand matron, took pity on her and married her to a steward in the house. She gave birth to a son, who now serves the old master and is highly valued. She spent her whole life tied to the Lu residence, loyal and cautious, earning the respect of everyone, high and low. Because I served by her side, I was favored by Mama Wang, but every time she looked at my embroidery frame, she would just sigh. Such a good child like you, why are hands so clumsy? A majestic rooster. You've embroidered it into a sick chicken. Its beak is all crooked. I lifted my head and replied seriously, Mama, that's not a rooster. I'm embroidering a great wild goose. Hearing that, she just shook her head and laughed bitterly. When it came to learning characters, I was even worse. The steward taught 10 characters, I could only remember 5. They were written crookedly, with slanted strokes and missing parts, barely recognizable. But at least I knew how to read a few words, which counted as progress. Fortunately, I had a diligent and hardworking nature. I always volunteered for the heavy labor. From sweeping yards, wiping tables, chopping wood, to carrying water, I did every job neatly. Thanks to this, 2 years later, when the other maids my age were all chosen to be personal attendants or to work in the master's rooms, I, under the recommendation of Mama Wang, was assigned to the Boya courtyard, the residence of the eldest youngster, Elias Lu. I was assigned specifically to do the heavy labor. Elias was the eldest son of this generation of the Lu family. Everyone praised him as a transcendent talent. At a young age, he had already passed the scholar examination, and his literature was outstanding. He was seen as the hope for reviving the entire family's fortunes. To ensure the young master could study in peace, the Boya courtyard only had 2 second-rank maids Hannah and Bella, who were responsible for cleaning the inner rooms. As for tasks like grinding ink, changing clothes, and arranging the study table, they were all handled by Zhang Sheng, the master's personal attendant, and Mama Zhang, his old wet nurse. The day I was brought into the courtyard, Mama Wang led me to pay respects to the eldest young master, ask him for a name. He was sitting at his desk, holding a book. He looked up, just as he was reading the line. The poplar flowers have all fallen, and the cuckoo cries. His gaze swept over me. He saw that I was dark-skinned, thin, and small, like a little sparrow. He said indifferently, "Let's call her Zhikui." It was a name that sounded elegant yet sorrowful. Zhikui, the cuckoo, a lonely bird, calling out in the late evening. I bowed my head and performed the ritual, a trace of unwillingness rising in my heart, but I still answered respectfully. "Thank you, young master." From beginning to end, I didn't dare lift my head to look at him, because the rules of the residence had clearly taught servants are not allowed to look directly at their masters. My room was behind the Boya courtyard, in the servants' quarters. Living with me were Mama Lee and 2 other utility maids named Mei Lu and Rose Hong. As for Hannah and Bella, they lived closer to the master's room to be available for night duties. Mama Lee was also an old hand in the residence. She was widowed early and had no children, so she was kept on for light work. When she grew old, the residence would provide her with a pension and handle her funeral affairs. She was gentle and kind, treating us like her own daughters, teaching and caring for us. Any pastries gifted by the master, she would share with us. When our clothes tore, she would meticulously mend them. Every time she got to go out, she would buy each of us a small gift, sometimes a hair flower, sometimes a sweet cake from Hongshanjai. But if we made a mistake, Mama Lee would also be strict. She would take a wooden ruler and strike our hands, the pain making us tremble, tears welling up. Each time, she would say, her voice slow but full of authority, "As a servant, the most important thing is to know your place. Be content with your lot and do your job well. Don't try to imitate those seductive foxes who do no proper work all day, only dreaming of climbing into the master's bed to become a concubine. Do you think the matron doesn't know? Once you're discovered, I fear not even your skin will be left intact. Remember my words, if any of you dares to have designs on the young master, before the matron even has to act, I will personally scratch your faces raw and break your legs." I knew who she was talking about. One time, I overheard Mei Lu and Rose Hong talking. They were whispering after finishing the laundry. Mei Lu folded the clothes and said, "Did you see? Bella was wearing a pink peach blossom in her hair today." Rose Hong glanced and replied, "I saw. A peach blossom with a green dress. She really has no sense of propriety." Mei Lu scoffed. "She puts in all that effort to look pretty, isn't it to catch the young master's eye? It's a pity Master Elias only knows his books, he doesn't even spare her a single glance." I listened in silence. Bella was naturally beautiful and skillful. She must have had her own plans. But in the Boya courtyard, the rules were as strict as iron. From the day I arrived until now, a full year had passed, and I still had not once seen Master Elias. The courtyard rules clearly stated that all sweeping must be finished before the master returned. He was not to be disturbed while reading. Because of this, I woke up every morning before the Mao hour, swept the courtyard clean, and watered all the flowers and plants before the master entered the study hall. And when the evening sun set, before he even returned, I had already retreated to the back courtyard to do laundry with Mama Lee, Mei Lu, and Rose Hong. We lived in a small corner of the Lu residence, working all day, but never had the chance to meet the master. Occasionally, Mama Wang would visit. She was the one who taught me in the early days. Every time she came, she would sit with Mama Lee, drinking wine and telling old stories. I would sit beside them, listening for a while before dozing off. When I woke up, I'd be covered by either Mama Wang's cloak or Mama Lee's blanket. Sometimes Mama Zhang, the master's wet nurse, and Hannah would also come to the back courtyard, bringing us leftover pastries from the main room. Even though they were cold, for servants like us, it was a blessing. Only Bella had never set foot there. But that made sense. She was so focused on climbing high, why would she lower herself to talk with us heavy laborers? In the residence, a maid's fate had only 4 paths. The best path was to become a master's, Tongfang, a personal attendant. If you were lucky enough to bear a son, you might be promoted to a concubine. Although your status wouldn't compare to the main wife, you'd be considered half a master. You'd wear fine silks and have servants of your own, no longer needing to suffer. The second path was, upon reaching age, to be matched by the master to a young attendant or a steward in the residence. You'd bear children, raise a family, and live a peaceful life. Some, like Mama Lee, after their husband died, stayed to work until old age, and the residents would handle their funeral. This was also considered a stable outcome. Third, if your relatives had the means, they could come and buy out your contract. A kind master might even add a bit of silver as a blessing. The final path, and the most difficult, was to save up enough money to buy your own freedom. In 10 years, not even one person in the residence had managed this. First, the fee to buy one's freedom was astronomical. Second, for those without family or connections, even if you got out, you'd have nowhere to go. Being outside was no better than being inside the residence, where at least you had a bowl of rice and clothes to wear. Third, those who bought their own freedom were often despised as disloyal and ungrateful. They were rumored to have betrayed their masters, and no one wanted to be near them. And so, day after day, I lived in the Boya courtyard for 2 full years. In those 2 years, I still had never seen the young master's face. Mei Lu and Rose Hong were sometimes curious and would hide behind the stone wall, waiting for the master to finish his studies just to steal a glance. But every time Mama Li caught them, they were scolded fiercely, their hands and feet turning black and blue. As for me, I never liked inviting trouble. I wasn't foolish enough to take a beating for someone I had never even met. Last month, just after the Mid-Autumn Festival, the weather began to turn cold. Mama Li had a cough. We thought it was just a chill from the wind and would pass in a few days. But today, while we were washing clothes in the courtyard, she suddenly coughed violently. A mouthful of bright red blood sprayed out, and she fell backward, unconscious. I was trembling with panic. Mama Li was the kindest person to me since I entered this residence. Since I entered this world, she was the only one who treated me like family. Only one thought remained in my head. I couldn't let anything happen to Mama. I pressed hard on her acupressure point, calling her name, but she wouldn't wake up. I leaped up and ran out of the Boya courtyard without thinking of the consequences. The Lu residence was a vast labyrinth. I ran and ran, through a round gate, over a small bridge, and turned down 3 narrow paths before I finally saw Mama Wang in the garden. I rushed forward and collapsed at her feet, tears streaming down my face, panting, "Mama Wang, please save Mama Li." She coughed up blood and fainted. "I beg you, please call a doctor to help." I was choking and trembling, completely unaware that someone else was standing right next to Mama Wang, watching me silently. Mama Wang snapped softly, rapping me on the head. "You unruly girl, you failed to salute the matron, and instead, you kneeled directly in front of me." Only then did I realize, stunned, that next to her stood a woman with a dignified and graceful appearance. Her clothes were elegant, yet they couldn't hide her noble aura. She wore a purple, embroidered silk gown, covered by a white brocade robe. Her pleated skirt was the color of a blue lake, with gold threads shining faintly in the sun. On her head was a set of gold jewelry inlaid with jade, bright but not gaudy. Her face seemed cherished by time, with a gentle smile and kind eyes, but deep within hid an authority that made one bow their head. So this was the mistress of the Lu family. I quickly knelt lower, trembling as I paid my respects. This servant was rude before the matron. It was a moment of panic. I begged the matron to punish me. Mama Wang frantically knelt beside me, kowtowing and begging, "Matron, it is this old servant's failure to teach her properly. I beg you, on account of this being her first offense, and that she only forgot the rules out of kindness, please spare her. This old servant will definitely punish her severely later." The matron didn't answer Mama Wang. She just looked at me slowly, her gaze calm and authoritative. "Which courtyard are you a maid in?" I bowed my head. Replying to the matron, "This servant is from the Boya courtyard." "The Boya courtyard?" The matron raised an eyebrow. "Since you are from the Boya courtyard, why did you not seek help from the eldest young master, but instead ran here to find Mama Wang?" I froze. Only then did I realize that next to the matron stood 2 young men in blue and white scholar robes. They were handsome, about 16 or 17 years old. Their features were similar. One must be the eldest young master, Elias, and the other, the second young master, the son of the second master, only 2 months younger than his cousin. Both seemed to have just returned from the study hall, their attendants following behind, carrying heavy satchels. One had a calm gaze, his lips pressed together, looking serious and disciplined. The other had a faint smile, his eyes slightly curved, with 2 shallow dimples hinting at the corners of his mouth. My heart pounded. What could I say? I had never met the young master. How would I know which one was which? The matron saw me looking around awkwardly, my eyes lingering on the 2 young men without answering, and she chuckled softly. "What is it, you don't even recognize your own master?" I quickly kowtowed, my voice trembling. Replying to the matron, "This servant is a heavy laborer in the Boya courtyard, responsible for sweeping the gardens. Mama Li taught me that when the young master is reading, I must not sweep in front of him, to avoid disturbing his studies. Therefore, this servant has never had the chance to meet the young master." The matron tilted her head slightly, her eyes smiling, yet not smiling. "So you've never peeked?" Replying to the matron, Mama Li taught that doing so is against the rules. This servant wouldn't dare. "How long have you been in the Boya courtyard?" Replying to the matron, 2.5 years. The matron let out a soft laugh, her voice gentle but with a deep, hidden meaning. 2.5 years, Very good. She covered her mouth and chuckled twice, then turned to Mama Wang. Take this girl to find the doctor. Afterward, go to the accounting office and collect 2 taels of silver for Mama Li. Tell her she has worked hard, and to rest and recover well. I bowed my head in thanks and hurried away with Mama Wang. Behind me, I heard the faint, teasing laughter of the 2 young men, but I didn't dare look back. This was the first time I had stepped outside the Lu residence. Turning right out of the main gate and walking about 300 paces, the street scene dazzled me. Shops stood side by side, vendors' calls echoed, and people bustled back and forth. For a moment, I felt if I had walked into a dream. How long had it been since I'd seen such a lively world? In that instant, I almost forgot that I didn't belong here. I was originally a university student in the modern world. I had lived among bright city lights, the sound of car horns, skyscrapers, and a technological network that connected the world. A world where girls could freely wear short skirts, where boys laughed in coffee shops, where people chanted the words, quality, no classes, no masters and servants. And yet I had fallen into this place, a society where a person's fate was bound by their birth and status. I was no longer myself, only a maid named Jukui. But I'd understood that if I wanted to live, I couldn't fight this entire world. I could only accept it, understand my role, and blend into the flow. Only then could I continue to live in peace. Mama Wang and I managed to bring a doctor back. Mama Li's illness was temporarily brought under control, but her body was weak, and she could no longer do strenuous labor. Every day, after finishing my work in the courtyard, I would brew her medicine. I sat by her side, chatting, and seeing her smile warmed my heart in a strange way. A life like this was so peaceful. Having work to do, someone to care for, and no worries about food or clothing. In this strange world, having days like these was, to me, already a kind of happiness. Mama Li's body weakened, and she could no longer sue for us. Winter was approaching again. The fur-lined coats issued by the residents were thick, but still cold, so I took the deep red cloth I had been rewarded with during the new year. I carefully cut and sewed, stitch by stitch, and embroidered a magpie on it, making a thick, warm coat for Mama. Mama Li gently stroked the coat, her hand trembling, her eyes wide with surprise. Did you really make this yourself? I smiled and nodded slightly. Yes, I made it, and I embroidered this magpie too. She looked at me for a long time, her eyes showing a mix of emotion and doubt. With such skillful hands, why were you assigned to menial labor back then? I stuck out my tongue and hugged her arm, whining playfully. Oh, it must have been destiny. If not, how would I have met such a kind mama like you? Mama Li burst out laughing, tapping my forehead twice before pulling me into her arms. You silly girl. The scent of medicine lingered in the wind. Those days were strangely peaceful. Just after the Lunar New Year, the red plum blossoms in the courtyard hadn't even budded yet. I was diligently brewing medicine for Mama when Mama Zhang, the young master's wet nurse, suddenly walked in, her face a mixture of solemnity and joy. She announced to me and Mama Li that the matron had just issued an order. Jukui, was to be promoted to a second-rank maid, to serve by the eldest young master's side. I was stunned, completely bewildered. A plain girl like me, with nothing outstanding, how could I have caught the matron's eye? Besides, the Boya courtyard already had 2 second-rank maids, Hannah and Bella. Why add me all of a sudden? In that moment, a thought flashed through my mind. Could something have happened to Bella? I looked up at Mama Zhang. She nodded slightly and whispered, "That girl, Bella. She dared to secretly give the young master a perfumed sachet embroidered with a pair of mandarin ducks. The matron happened to see it. She was furious. She immediately ordered her to be beaten with 20 strokes, and then sold to the servant traders." After hearing this, I shivered, my heart pounding wildly. This was the first time I truly felt it. In this world, a person's life was as fragile as grass. One wrong move and you could be pushed into an abyss with no way back. I asked, my voice trembling slightly. But why choose me? There are still Mei Lu and Rose Hong. They both came to the Boya courtyard before me. Mama Zhang looked at me with a meaningful smile. Do you remember the time you ran into the matron when you were fetching the doctor for Mama Li? I nodded repeatedly. How could I forget? I was scared out of my wits. She continued. The matron found it interesting that you had been in the Boya courtyard for 2 years dares, and still didn't even know who the young master was. Later, she asked Mama Wang about you. She learned that you are cautious, kind, and, most importantly, you know your place and never overstep the rules. So, when Bella made her mistake, the matron personally appointed you to take her place. I was speechless. It turned out that my very stupidity and contentment were what made the matron feel at ease. For a maid like me, managing to remain ignorant was actually a blessing. I clutched Mamala's hand, my voice choked. I don't want to go. I just want to stay here and take care of you, Mama. She sighed softly and tapped me on the head, her voice slow but firm. The matron's order has been given. How can you defy it? You are a sensible child, which puts my mind at ease. I only hope you remember one thing as a servant: you must know your place. You absolutely must not have any thoughts that are beyond your station. Remember this. Remember it well. I bit my lip and nodded. I'll remember. Don't worry, Mama. I won't do anything to make you worry. From that day on, I moved out of the servants' quarters in the back and into Bella's old room, now sharing with Hannah. The room wasn't large, but it was fully furnished one. With a rosewood bed, a mother-of-pearl inlaid vanity, a small tea table, and exquisite round stools. Hannah was a gentle girl, just past 16, 2 years older than me. She was kind, skillful, and knew how to care for others. Since she and Mama Zhang used to bring pastries to the back courtyard, we were already familiar with each other. Hannah told me her family had fallen on hard times and had to sell her into the residence. But thanks to her monthly wages, her parents had opened a small shop and were gradually doing better. She said they wanted to buy her freedom, but she asked to stay for 2 more years. The pay at the Lu residence was high enough to save for her future. She gently taught me every detail. The young master likes his tea hot but not boiling and not lukewarm. The pastries in his room must be changed daily. The flowers in the vase don't have a specific type, as long as they are always fresh. The tables and chairs must be wiped clean, but never when the master is home, to avoid disturbing his reading. As for the more personal tasks like changing clothes, grinding ink, and cleaning the study, those were handled by Mama Zhang and Zhang Sheng. Without a direct order, I was absolutely not to interfere. I listened until my head was spinning. I took out a brush and paper and noted everything down carefully. Soon, I had filled 5 whole pages. Looking at it, I couldn't help but sigh. It turned out being a personal maid was no different from taking an exam. Hannah curiously picked up the paper and giggled. Mama Zhang said you were stupid, but I think you're quite clever. I laughed too. My memory is poor. If I don't write it down, I'll forget. I have to rely on these little tricks. Hannah looked closely at my handwriting, tilting her head. This script is very strange. Is it flower script? I flinched, my heart leaping into my throat, but I forced myself to remain calm. No, it just looks similar. Hannah's eyes were still wide. I remember. I saw this exact script once on the young master's desk when I was serving tea. I didn't expect you to know it, and you write it even better than he does. I laughed, quickly taking the paper back and hiding it, changing the subject. Sister, don't tease me. I just write it clearly. Now, your embroidery skills, that's what's truly admirable. You embroidered that wild goose so finely, down to the last feather. I still haven't learned how. You must teach me more later. Hannah was an honest, kind, and simple girl. She didn't overthink it and genuinely began to guide me in embroidery. I kept to my station, doing my work according to the notes Hannah had given me. When serving tea, I let Zhang Sheng take it in. When the master was in his room, I avoided entering. As a result, even after a year as a second-rank maid, I made no impression on the young master. Whenever I had free time, I would run to the back courtyard to be with Mama Li. Before, Mama Li always saved the best pastries for me and brought me things from outside. Now, it was the other way around. I brought her pastries. My monthly salary had increased quite a bit, and I often asked people to bring new and interesting things from the market for Mama Li. She would always hold me, listen to me talk, and stuff pastries into her mouth. Every time I was about to leave, she would remind me to keep my place, do my job well, and not follow in Bella's footsteps. Hannah knew how close Mama Li and I were. She would sometimes let me sneak off, covering for me, and even save pastries from the master's room for me. The days passed just like that. In a blink of an eye, I was 16. Hannah had also reached marriageable age. Her parents had arranged a marriage for her and came to take her home. Matron Lu, grateful for Hannah's hard work over the years, gave her a generous dowry. Even though I knew this day would come, when it finally arrived, I was so happy for her I wanted to cry, and so sad I wanted to cry. All this time, Hannah had been like an older sister to me, always looking out for me. She made me clothes when it was cold and left me cool tea when it was hot. She knew I liked the pastries from the master's room and would always save them for me. She knew I worried about Mama Li, and every time I snuck off to visit, she would cover my duties without a single complaint. I used half a year's salary to buy Hannah a high-quality jade hairpin. I also used the high-grade silk cloth awarded by the master to personally sew her a new set of clothes. Hannah stroked the gifts, hugged me, and then held my hand, saying, "Jikwi, I know what you long for. But this world is harsh on women. What you want is probably very difficult to achieve. As your older sister, I ache for you. But as a woman, I also admire you greatly." I walked Hannah to the gate of the Liu residence. Returning to my room, I felt an immense emptiness. I ran to Mama Lee's side and burst into tears. Mama Lee comforted me for a while but also had to urge me to leave. "Hannah is gone now. There's no one to cover for you anymore." After Hannah left, Matron Liu summoned me. The gist was that with Hannah gone, they should have added another second-rank maid. But the young master was about to take his exams, and she feared a new maid wouldn't know the rules and would disturb his peace. So, she asked me to bear the extra work for a while. After his exams, they would add more people. Furthermore, with the exams approaching, she told me to be even more attentive and serve the young master well. Of course, my salary would be tripled, and if the young master passed, there would be an additional reward. The workload wasn't heavy to begin with, which was why I could often sneak off. Now, with triple pay, I naturally accepted with delight. The pressure on students in ancient times was just as intense, it seemed. Seeing Master Elias toiling over his studies day after day, I couldn't help but feel for him. But that's just how life was, no one could do otherwise. It was just like the university entrance exams back in my time. Everyone knew it was a grueling system, everyone knew how hard the students worked, but no parent would let their child skip it. I could only do small things. Every day before he finished, I'd prepare chilled mung bean soup, leaving it in the well to cool. Zhang Sheng would bring it to him. I could only replace the flowers in his room with orchids, which helped calm the mind. I could only vary the flavors of the pastries on his desk. I could only give Zhang Sheng energizing incense to light when the master studied late into the night and grew tired. The things I could do were very few. This path of examinations was one he had to walk himself. It was just, watching him study so diligently, I was reminded of my boyfriend in the modern world, Wenjin. He was the same, always as serious as a researcher, meticulous and dedicated. Back then, I loved to tease him, either by suddenly covering his eyes from behind or by burrowing into his arms and acting cute. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smile. I looked up at the sky, at the sparse moon and stars, remembering all the times we watched the moon together in the park by the lake. Sometimes, I'd get a sudden whim and make him play a poetry matching game. I was binge-watching a classical poetry show at the time. He was a science guy, naturally, he couldn't beat me. After a few rounds, he'd surrender and resignedly go buy me ice cream. Actually, I knew he was letting me win. A man who knew the Tang and Song poems by heart, who even knew the classic of poetry and Han Yufu. How could he possibly lose to a slacker student like Maid? The theme was the moon. His final line was from the famous sushi. Men have sorrow, joy, separation, reunion. The moon has dim, bright wax when. This has always been hard to perfect. I couldn't help but continue the next line. May we live long and share the bright moon, though thousands of miles apart. By now, everyone probably thought I had died in that fire, including him. Who would have guessed I'd be reborn in another world, living so humbly and carefully, for 8 years now? I wonder how much time has passed over there. Did he escape and start a new life? Has he thrown himself into his research, ignoring the world? Was he forced by his parents to marry someone else? Does he have a wife and children now, living a happy life? Will he forget me? But I have never forgotten him. How could I ever forget him? But if we cannot be together, I can only wish him a lifetime of peace. I wiped my tears and turned my head, only to see the eldest young Master, Elias, standing in the doorway, looking at me. Zhang Sheng was nowhere to be seen. I looked at Master Elias's face, and for a moment, I was a bit dazed. But I quickly regained my composure, bowed and said, "Young master, it is late, the night wind is cold. Please be careful not to catch a chill. You should go inside. It's fine. I'm admiring the moon." Then, "Let this servant fetch a cloak for you." As I walked past him, he suddenly grabbed my hand and asked, "What did you just say?" I turned my head in surprise, staring at him, and stammered, "No, nothing. May we live long and share the bright moon though thousands of miles apart." A beautiful line," he said. "This is a new poem written by Lord Su just last year. How do you know it?" I pulled my hand free from his grasp, retreated 3 steps, and bowed my head. "Young master, you misheard. This servant said nothing. It is late. This servant will take her leave. I turned and fled into my room, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would jump out of my chest. I slapped my cheeks lightly, annoyed. How could I be so careless? The following days, perhaps because the young master was busy with his studies, or perhaps we had a tacit understanding to ignore that night, or perhaps I was just deliberately avoiding him, but several days passed peacefully. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief, my tense heart gradually calming down. I continued my daily work, visiting Mama Lee in the back courtyard whenever I was free. Just like that, several peaceful months passed, and the examination day drew nearer. Matron Lu instructed me and Mama Zhang to prepare the young master's luggage for his trip to the capital. I had never traveled far and felt a bit overwhelmed, so I just packed the things I used to prepare for my own trips. Besides the necessities, like clothes and books, I also stayed up late to sew several small pouches, sorting different items into them. There were sour plums for motion sickness, charcoal powder for absorbing moisture, incense for deodorizing, and fleece-lined pads to protect his knees and elbows from the wind and cold. I also made several large, foldable cloth bags. Mama Zhang looked at the things I prepared, very pleased with the first few items, but puzzled by the large cloth bags. I explained, if his travel boxes break on the road, these bags can be used to hold his things. Also, I heard the exam lasts for 3 days with no visitors allowed and limited items. The northern spring is cold. The young master can use this bag for his books. If the seat is cold, he can turn the bag over and use it as a cushion. I've lined the inside with a layer of fine wool. Mama Zhang turned a bag inside out to look. Sure enough, the inside was lined with soft, warm wool. Mama Zhang praised my thoughtfulness endlessly, and instructed Zhang Sheng to be sure to bring everything. On the day the young master left, I and the others in the Boya courtyard saw him off at the gate. As servants, we were not qualified to see him off at the river dock. Watching his figure recede into the distance, I turned back inside, closed the window tightly, and carefully took out a piece of paper. On it was written a poem by Sushi, Shuidiao Jitu. Prelude to Water Melody, Mingiji Shiyu, Biju Wen Kingju, Danyuan Renchengju, Qianli Gong Chanjan. At the very end, there was a signature, translated by Wenjin. I took scissors, cut off the signature, and burned it. Then, I locked the remaining paper in my dressing box. In the days the young master was away, the Boya courtyard was incredibly quiet. Besides the daily cleaning and chatting with Mama Lee in the back courtyard, I also tended to the flowers and plants. I've always loved orchids. Their scent is elegant and calming. The orchid is also the flower of the gentleman, carrying an air of refinement, beloved by scholars and artists. I pestered Mama Zhang many times, and she finally agreed to let me plant a few pots in the courtyard. The elegant orchids suited the name, Boya, refined elegance, courtyard perfectly. My gardening skills were taught by Mama Wang. After a bit of care, the orchids in the courtyard began to bloom one after another, their fragrance spreading throughout. One day, while Mama Zhang and I were tending the flowers, the watering can ran empty. I took it to the back courtyard to get water. As I returned to the front courtyard, I heard Mama Zhang speaking to a man, her voice very respectful. I hid behind a pillar, straining to listen. I heard the man say, "This orchid is simple and elegant. Planting it in my elder brother's courtyard really suits the Boya name. But I don't recall the Boya courtyard having this orchid before." Mama Zhang respectfully replied, "This old servant knows nothing about flowers. I just thought they were pretty and fragrant, so I planted a few pots. I didn't expect to catch the second young master's eye. If you like them, Master Julian, this old servant will have someone send 2 pots to your courtyard." I peeked out and saw the second young master, Julian Liu, flicking his fan. His eyes darkened for a moment, then he suddenly laughed twice. "This orchid is very difficult to care for. The people in my courtyard are crude. I'm afraid they wouldn't last a few days before dying. It would be a waste. It's much better that the person in my elder brother's courtyard is so talented and clever, able to nurture them so well. Such a graceful bearing. Well, I shall just be an admirer of the flowers." After speaking, he looked up, snapped his fan open, fanned himself a few times, and left with his attendant. I waited until Master Julian had walked far away before I carried the watering can over. This second young master is so strange. Why did he suddenly come to our Boya courtyard? Mama Zhang tapped me lightly on the forehead, chiding, "It's all your fault for insisting on planting orchids, and planting them so beautifully. The second young master is a well-known romantic, a self-proclaimed connoisseur of beauty. Seeing such lush orchids blooming in the courtyard, how could he not come for a look?" I stuck out my tongue and shook Mama Zhang's arm. How can you blame me? You should blame Mama Zhang for having such good taste, choosing this orchid with its gentle fragrance and elegant color. And you have to blame Mama Wang for her excellent skills, teaching me everything she knew about planting, allowing me to cultivate this difficult orchid so well. It's all because of you and Mama Wang. How can it be my fault? Mama Zhang was caught between anger and laughter. She couldn't help but tap my forehead again, making me rub the spot in mock pain. No wonder Mama Li and Mama Wang adore you so much. You're truly skilled at twisting words, completely charming. I kept my playful expression, looking at Mama Zhang with wide eyes. So, does Mama Zhang like me? Do you, Mama? Do you like me? Mama, just say it. Do you like me? Mama Zhang, defeated, sighed and gently tapped my nose. Yes, I like you. Another period passed. Just as the last pot of orchids bloomed, good news arrived from the capital. The eldest young master, Elias, had lived up to everyone's expectations, placing 12th in the metropolitan examination. The entire Lu residence was overcome with joy. The old master and matron Lu not only gave huge rewards to everyone in the Boya courtyard, but also to all the other courtyards. Master Elias hadn't even returned yet, but the matchmakers were already wearing out the threshold of the Lu residence. The old master and matron Lu discussed for a long time and finally decided on Lady Elara Shen, from the household of the Imperial Sacrificial Temple's minister. Elara Shen was the youngest daughter of the Empress's younger brother. Although a distant relative, she still had ties to the imperial family. Furthermore, her grandfather had been a scholar at the Imperial Academy. Before Master Elias went to the capital, he had been instructed by Elara Shen's grandfather, so they shared a slight teacher-student bond. Moreover, Elara's second older brother was currently working in the censorate, his future boundless. With such a family supporting him, the young master's future was truly bright. It was just, Lady Elara was famous for her delicate health. She was a high-born lady who needed 3 to 5 servants to accompany her whenever she went out, fearing the sun, the rain, and the fatigue of travel. But she was also renowned as a great beauty, praised for a face that could make fish sink and birds fall. Her frail body added to her ethereal grace, making people feel protective of her. When Matron Lu spoke to Master Elias about this marriage, he only pondered for a moment before replying respectfully, "Everything will be as mother wishes." The matron knew Lady Elara was frail and feared she might have difficulty bearing children, which would be unfair to her son. So she asked, "Do you have any girl you like? If she's not from a high-status family, mother can arrange for her to be your concubine." A faint, unnoticeable glint passed through Master Elias's eyes, but his expression remained calm as ever. "Mother must be joking. Since childhood, I have studied diligently, taking the revival of the Lu family as my mission, never daring to slack off. Besides Mama Zhang and one maid serving by my side, I have never interacted with any other girls." When the matron heard this, she seemed to remember something. "That maid, you said the second-rank maid beside you, what's her name again?" Replying to mother, "She is Jukui." "Yes, that's her. The girl who was in your courtyard for 2 years and didn't even recognize you." "How amusing." "I find her to be very good. She works carefully, has a simple heart, and is very reassuring. How about we elevate her to Tongfang status? In a few years, after she bears a child or two, we can promote her to a concubine. What do you think?" A flicker of light, hard to detect, flashed in Master Elias's eyes, but he still replied with deference, "Everything will be as mother wishes." When Matron Lu summoned me, I was in the courtyard, dividing orchid roots. Mama Zhang excitedly pulled me into the room, changed me into a new set of clothes, and even put a precious red agate and pearl hairpin in my hair. I felt a little uncomfortable, and also a bit anxious. "Mama Zhang, what's happening? Why are you dressing me up so carefully all of a sudden?" Mama Zhang just smiled and said, "It's a good thing. You'll know when you get there." I followed Mama Zhang to the matron's room. Master Elias was also sitting beside her. Mama Wang stood respectfully behind the matron. I kneeled and properly greeted the matron and the young master. The matron saw the hairpin in my hair and smiled, very pleased. "The first time I saw you, you were still a dark, scrawny little maid. Now you've grown up. Wearing this blue silk robe with the red agate pin, you've transformed into a little beauty." I knew I wasn't ugly. While not a stunning beauty, my features were balanced, my skin was fair. If properly dressed up, I could be considered elegant and pretty. I didn't let myself drown in the matron's praise, because her next words felt like plunging into an ice cellar. "You have been by the young master's side, always diligent and careful. Today, I will preside over your Kaimian, Zas coming of ages ceremony and elevate you to Tongfang. After the young mistress enters the family, you can serve her well. If you bear a son or daughter in the future, I will promote you to a concubine. No wonder Mama Zhang had such a strange expression when she was dressing me. No wonder Mama Wang looked at me with such complicated eyes. No wonder everyone's gaze in the room was different. Some were envious, some congratulatory, but most were filled with jealousy. That's right, I was just a second-rank maid, utterly foolish, with nothing outstanding, yet I had caught the eye of the matron and the young master, and was being elevated so high. The young master had just achieved a high rank in the examinations, countless people desired him. But I had just stumbled upon a treasure, but I didn't want it. Mama Wang saw me standing frozen and tried to smooth things over. This child is just overwhelmed with joy. Why have you forgotten to give thanks? I snapped back to reality, 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. Finally, I gritted my teeth, kowtowed 3 times to the matron, and then pressed my forehead to the ground. My voice trembled as I said, "Matron, Juki wishes to buy her freedom." The words had barely left my mouth when the room fell into a dead silence. The matron was stunned. Even the calm face of Master Elias stiffened. Mama Zhang, standing next to me, immediately knelt down, pinched me hard, and whispered in my ear, "Are you insane?" Then she quickly began to plead for me. The matron, after her initial shock, visibly suppressed her anger. I could feel it. But to maintain her image as the family mistress, she still asked, "Are you serious?" Replying to the matron, "Yes, I am. Why do you want to leave the residence? Do you think becoming my son's Tongfang is beneath you?" My shoulders tensed. I knew that in this era, a maid was like grass. If the master was displeased, they could be beaten or sold. But I clenched my teeth. Replying to the matron, "Jukui is just a sparrow, the young master is a Keelan, a divine creature. Since entering the residence, this servant has learned the family rules. A servant must keep to her station, and dare not have improper thoughts. The young master is my master. I dare not dream of it." The matron glanced at the young master, whose face remained unchanged, and continued, "If that's the case, you could have simply refused. Why insist on leaving the residence? I know you have no relatives." Replying to the matron, "Jukui entered the residence at 8 and has never been outside since. I have heard the older stewards say that the world outside is vast, the mountains and rivers are beautiful in all 4 seasons. As a servant, I shouldn't dream of it, but my heart yearns to see the outside world. The young master is about to be married. With the young mistress by his side, they will be harmonious and have children soon. Isn't that wonderful? My presence would only displease the young mistress. You truly have such lofty ambitions." The matron's voice was laced with sarcasm. She was about to say more when the young master suddenly spoke. "Mother, she has a point. If my new bride enters the door and finds I already have a Tongfang before marriage, it might reflect poorly on our family. Besides, she has cared for me well these past years, very diligently. If not for the wool-lined cushions she sewed, I fear I would have had to sit on a cold bench for 3 days during the exam. It is better to grant her wish and let her go." Seeing the young master speak up, and perhaps remembering my years of obedient service, the matron said nothing more. She ordered Mama Wang to bring 10 tals of silver for me. "If the young master has spoken, I will let you go. For your years of loyalty, take this silver. Consider our master-servant relationship finished." I accepted the silver, knowing the matron's intent. If I was going to leave, I should leave decisively, take the silver, and from now on, have no more connection to the Lu residence. I bowed deeply. "Jikui thanks the matron." When I returned to the Boya courtyard, Mama Li already knew. She had sent Rosehan to find me. The sun was setting, and the twilight shone through the window, filtered by the thin, cicada, wing paper, casting shadows on the dark floor. Mama Li sat with her back to the window, leaning against the small bedside table. She hadn't lit the lamps, and the darkness obscured her expression. She watched me silently as I entered. I didn't know what to say. I just knelt before her, wordlessly. I thought I must have disappointed her. Mama must be furious. Even if she beat me, I wouldn't complain. Mama Li watched me kneel for a long time, then sighed. "Stand up. The floor is cold. Be careful of your knees." I couldn't hold it in any longer. I rushed into her arms, not sobbing loudly like when Hannah left, but just burying my face in her lap, letting the tears fall silently. Mama Li gently patted my back. She was speaking to me, but it sounded as if she were calmly talking to herself. "I had my suspicions. Ever since you made me that coat embroidered with magpies. The stitches were so fine, the embroidery so exquisite, Even I was in awe. I saw the characters you wrote, such beautiful, elegant script. The brushwork was like flowing clouds and water, so vibrant. Even the steward who taught you didn't write that well. Such a clever child, how could you be, as Mama Wang said, a clumsy girl? To be honest, I couldn't guess why you would deliberately hide your talents and run off to do heavy labor. But now, I understand. You were afraid of being noticed by the master too early. Afraid of being made a tongfang, or being given away as part of a dowry, or being kept by the master and never allowed to leave. Right, you were determined to leave this place from the very beginning. Weren't you? I kept my face buried in her lap, just nodding gently. Mama continued, you have no one to rely on outside. In this Lu residence, even as a servant, you don't have to worry about food or clothing. With your talents, it wouldn't be hard to law. Why must you leave? I lifted my head from her lap, sat up straight, and looked into her eyes. Mama? Do you remember Bella? Bella, of course I remember. Do you remember why she was sold from the residence? Of course, she improperly gave the young master a sachet embroidered with mandarin ducks. And was caught by the matron, so she was beaten 20 strokes and sold. Mama, do you think Bella's punishment was reasonable? Mama Lee hesitated. Bella was at fault, but such a heavy punishment was indeed too much. But what does that have to do with you? Mama, you also know Bella's fault wasn't that great. A beating and a transfer from the Boya courtyard would have been enough, but the matron deliberately punished her severely, selling her to make an example for all the maids. If anyone dared to have improper thoughts, Bella was the warning. I continued, just for disturbing the young master's studies, just for touching the master's interests, she was given no chance, shown no mercy, and sold. If one day I make a mistake, if I touch the master's interests, if I displease the master, I will be the next Bella, and can I resist? Can I say no? No, I can't, because I am a servant. I am property. I am not a person. I am just a possession of the master, no different from a cup or a bowl in their hands. I grasped her hand tightly. Mama, I don't want to be a cup or a bowl. I want to be a person who can control her own destiny, a person who can decide her own life. Tongfang concubine, in the eyes of servants, it's half master, a sparrow turned phoenix. But in reality, it's just a slightly more high-class servant, still just property in someone's hands. To be beaten, punished, or sold at their whim. Mama Lee stared at me, dumbfounded, muttering, I never knew you had such thoughts, but you're a girl, all alone. Once you leave this residence, how will you live? Mama's voice trembled, her eyes full of tears. I held her hand tightly, smiling. Mama, don't worry. The master didn't charge me the fee for my freedom, and even gave me 10 taels of silver. Adding that to the money I've saved all these years, I won't starve. I've also written to Sister Hannah. She and her husband are running a pastry shop in the city. I'm going to find her. With her help, and the money I've saved, I'll live well. Mama looked at me with the expression of a mother whose child has grown up and no longer needs her. She sighed. All right, if you've decided, then go. As if remembering something, Mama Lee stood up and went to her cabinet. She rummaged for a long time, pushing all the clothes onto the floor, and finally pulled out a square box. She carried the box over and opened it. Inside, half was filled with exquisite pearl jewelry, and the other half was neat stacks of gold and silver. It was probably her entire life savings. Mama Lee pushed the box towards me. This is the money I've saved over the years. In the residence, I don't lack for food or clothes, and I get a monthly wage. I have no use for this money. You take it. Having a little more capital will be good. My eyes welled up, but the tears didn't fall. I sniffled and smiled. Mama, this is so much money. It's not safe for a girl like me to carry. What if I get targeted by thieves? Why don't you hold on to it for me? If I really can't make a living, I'll come back to you for it. How about that? Mama thought for a moment, perhaps agreeing with my logic, and didn't press the issue. Because the young master's wedding was approaching, the residence was incredibly busy. From the matron and old master down to the maids in attendance, everyone is occupied. The matron assigned 2 new maids to the Boya courtyard, but Mama Zhang had no time to look after them. So, she asked the matron if I could stay for a little longer to train the 2 new girls. I, of course, agreed. The 2 maids were about 15 or 16, pretty and well behaved. They were skilled in needlework, housekeeping, and were literate, truly the best of their peers. I guessed the matron's intention. The new young mistress was frail and might have trouble bearing children. The matron was already making arrangements. If the new mistress couldn't conceive, these 2 maids would become concubines to help the Lu family continue its line. Master Elias even gave them names. One was Evie Dew, and the other was Jasmine. I almost died laughing. Did the young master have some obsession with cuckoo birds? I trained the two new girls with all my heart. They were smart and quick, so I didn't need to spend much effort. They quickly learned everything I taught. I could only sigh. The new waves were already pushing the old waves onto the beach. During this time, Master Elias was busier than ever, leaving early and returning late every day, apparently invited out by friends. But I was happy to enjoy this idle time. When I saw him, I would still bow respectfully. He would just nod slightly and walk past, saying nothing. I wanted to thank him for speaking up for me that day. If he hadn't, the matron would never have let me go so easily. But every time I was about to open my mouth, he would hurry away, either calling Zhang Sheng into his room or making an excuse that he was busy, dismissing me. I had to give up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Thinking that I was about to leave this place, this courtyard where I had lived for nearly 10 years, I felt a little sad. I got up and opened the window for some air. My window looked directly toward a corner of the young master's room. As soon as I opened it, I saw him standing by his window. His window was also open, the night breeze blowing his hair into disarray. He was wearing a white sleeping robe with a wide cloak, making him look thin. He stood there quietly. It was clearly a picturesque scene. A noble young master gazing at the moon, but I saw in it a shadow of loneliness. He was staring intently out the window, looking in the direction of my room. He saw me, and I saw him. I said nothing. He said nothing. We just looked at each other, silently. I don't know how many times he has stood alone in the night like this, nor do I know how long he has been standing there. I only know that tonight is probably the last time, because tomorrow is his wedding day, and it is also the day I leave the residence. On the day of his wedding, I left quietly. The front courtyard was bustling with voices and music, people coming and going. It was so lively. Everyone in the residence was out front helping. The only ones who saw me off were Mama Li, Rose Hong, and Mei Lu. Yesterday, Mama Zhang had pressed a solid gold hairpin into my hand, which I could tell was extremely valuable. I thought it was too expensive, but Mama Zhang said, "Life outside isn't as easy as in the residence. Keep this hairpin. If you can't make a living, you can exchange it for some silver." I couldn't refuse. I accepted it and hugged Mama Zhang tightly. I felt a pang of regret. Mama Wang was too busy, and her courtyard was far away. It wasn't convenient for me to go to the matron's courtyard to find her, so I couldn't say goodbye. Mama Li and the other two walked me to the back gate. Mama Li held my hand, her eyes filled with tears, reminding me over and over to take care of myself. Rose Hong and Mei Lu gave me a pair of shoes they had embroidered, tears streaming down their faces. I hugged them tightly. We had been together for 8 years. Though not related by blood, through years of relying on each other, they had become my closest family in this world. I wiped my tears and comforted them. No feast lasts forever. But no matter where I go, you will always be my dearest family. Mama Li, after I'm gone, please tell Mama Wang that I will miss her. I turned to leave, but suddenly heard a maid calling my name from a distance. She ran up to me, panting. I recognized her as the maid who attended to Mama Wang. Before she could catch her breath, she handed me a bracelet, gasping, "Mama Wang asked me to give this to you." I took the bracelet. Looking closely, I saw it was the old, worn bracelet that Mama Wang always wore. I asked, "Why did Mama Wang have you bring this? Did she say anything?" "Yes. Mama Wang said to tell you, if you can't survive outside, take this bracelet to the embroidery shop called Jingxiu Fang, on Changping Street in the West City. The owner is an old acquaintance of hers. When she sees this bracelet, she will arrange a job for you." Mama Wang also said, "Even though your embroidery is terrible, and you're a bit foolish, you're a hard worker. Even if you can't be an embroiderer, being a helper is better than wandering the streets." I could imagine Mama Wang's gruff expression as she said this, but she was still worried about me, afraid I wouldn't make it on my own, so she painstakingly found a fallback for me. I put the bracelet away carefully, asked the maid to relay my gratitude to Mama Wang, and then turned and walked out the gate. I turned back, and saw Mama Li standing in the doorway, her eyes following me, until a young attendant slowly closed the gate, and I could no longer see her. I looked up at the grand residence where I had lived for nearly 10 years. The red walls, green tiles, and ornate carvings were so majestic. But to me, it was just a magnificent gilded cage. And I wasn't even a precious bird in that cage. I was just a plain, gray sparrow trapped inside it. A few days ago, When the steward took me to change my household registration, he asked if I wanted to change back to my original name. I thought for a moment. The name Jukui had been with me for so many years. Even if I changed it back, I could never return to the past. I said no, just keep it as Jukui, but I wanted to add a surname. What was your original surname? I thought for a moment, then answered slowly, Yang. From this day on, I am Jukui Yang. I followed the address in Sister Hannah's letter and found the pastry shop she ran with her husband. The small shop was tucked away in a corner of the street, not easy to spot. A location like that wasn't good for business, but the rent was cheap. Hannah had displayed the pastries at the shop's entrance to attract the attention of passersby. The man behind the counter greeting customers must have been her husband, a kind-looking and sturdy man. He was cheerfully calling out, freshly baked osmanthus cakes. Young master, would you like to buy some? And this is our plum blossom cake. We're the only shop on the street that has this. It's delicious. Please, try one before you buy one. Jun, Kadi. Certainly. Please wait a moment, young master, here is your change. Please keep it safe. If you like it, please come again. I walked forward. He greeted me. Miss, would you like to buy some pastries? What would you like to try? Hello. I'm looking for Hannah. You are. I am Jukui. Hannah rushed out from the back. It had been over a year. Seeing her again, she was wearing her hair up in the style of a married woman. She had lost her girlish innocence, replaced by the maturity of a wife. Hannah grabbed my hands. So emotional she was crying, unable to speak clearly. Jukui, it's you, it's really you. I never expected you to leave the Lu residence so soon. I thought I'd have to wait several more years. Sister Hannah, it's me. I'm out. I came to find you as soon as I left. What do you mean, find me? You're my little sister. We're family, no need for such words. Hannah's husband, standing beside her, couldn't help but interject. Wife, hurry and invite the young lady inside. Right, let's go inside. Hannah wiped her tears and quickly pulled me into the house. After catching up, I understood their situation. Her husband, Aaron Wang, was her older cousin, 2 years her senior. They had known each other before Hannah entered the Lu residence. Later, her family met with disaster, and she was sold into the Lu residence, while her cousin followed his family to seek refuge with relatives. After the disaster passed, he returned with his parents. He lived an upright life, but he refused to marry, even though he was of age. When pressed by his parents, he finally admitted he was waiting for Hannah to return. And so, when Hannah came back, they were married. After their marriage, they were very much in love and opened this small pastry shop together. Hannah had been in the Lu residence for many years and often imitated the pastries made there, which were very popular with customers. So, even though the shop was in a remote location, business was good. I stayed at Hannah's place temporarily. Every day, I left early and returned late. I wandered the markets, checking prices, observing the trends, and scouting locations. I borrowed Aaron's clothes, put on a fake beard, and wore a hat to disguise myself as a man. I listened to people chat in teahouses and taverns. Sometimes I buy a pot of wine or tea and invite the talkative ones to share. They spoke freely, and I listened with satisfaction. After a month, I had a good grasp of the market. I set my sights on a shop and, after several rounds of haggling, rented it for a reasonable price. Sister Hannah found out I rented a shop and guessed I wanted to start a business. She asked me what I planned to do. I told her I wanted to open a small eatery. Sister Hannah was skeptical. When we were at the Lu residence, she never knew I could cook. I laughed and said, ever since I was little, I was tormented by my mother's terrible cooking. To survive, I had to teach myself. Over time, I got pretty good. I remembered back in my school days, when our 2 dorms had a potluck. I showed off my skills and stunned my classmates, who could barely tell salt from sugar. It was also at potluck that I met my boyfriend Wenjin. He had caught my eye, and I had captured his heart. I smiled and replied to Sister Hannah. You don't believe me, sister. Wait until dinner tonight, you'll see if I'm joking or not. After dinner, Sister Hannah no longer objected. She just said that if I needed anything, I should just ask her for help. I was, of course, overjoyed. With the help of Hannah and her husband, my small eatery finally opened. I named it Lan Jun Jae's Orchid Gentleman Pavilion. Sister Hannah teased me that the name sounded more like a scholarly study than an eatery. The small restaurant wasn't large or luxurious, much like the casual diners of the modern era. I hired an apprentice, an accountant, and a chef. I brought out the dishes from my memory, adapting them to the local reality, Ingredients and spices I couldn't find, I replaced with similar local ones, creating new and novel dishes that suited the contemporary palate. I also gave these dishes very appealing names, such as two birds flying wing to wing, bitterness ends and sweetness begins, soaring high, rising step by step, overflowing with joy, 10,000 miles of green waves, joined branches, together forever, beauty's fingertips, Culin's abode, yearning, southern land, curled airs, peaches viewed, and so on. In reality, they were just ordinary dishes presented in different ways. For example, the curled ears dish was just wood ear mushrooms blanched in boiling water, mixed with seasoning, and then rolled up in thin slices of cucumber and arranged nicely. The mushrooms were crisp, the cucumber refreshing, a perfect combination for summer. Or, the bitterness ends and sweetness begins. It was just red dates, poked with holes, soaked in honey until saturated, and then stuffed into a piece of bitter melon that had been cut into a tube and hollowed out, then steamed. When you ate it, just as the bitterness of the melon melted away, the sweetness of the date would fill your mouth, perfectly matching the name. Although the dishes sounded complex and high-end, the methods and ingredients were simple. The cost wasn't high, so the prices I set weren't expensive either. Business, especially long-term business, is all about keeping customers. I applied some simple advertising and promotional tactics I learned in school, combined with novel dishes and reasonable prices. Most importantly, it was delicious and affordable. Very quickly, my eatery started to gain a reputation. Every day, before we even opened, there were customers waiting outside, wanting to try the new dishes. There were also many servants from wealthy families waiting to buy takeout for their masters. My Orchid Gentleman Pavilion was small and casual, with no private rooms, so the young masters from rich families usually didn't want to dine in. Occasionally, servants from the Lu residence would also come by with baskets to buy food. I instructed my staff to pack the food carefully, adding 2 extra dishes and a few small pieces of silver, telling them to bring it back for Mama Wang, Mama Li, and Mama Zhang. Since leaving the Lu residence, I had never gone back. 1. The residence was strict. 2. My voluntary departure had made the matron lose face. If I returned, I was afraid it would displease her and affect the mamas. Fortunately, every time the Lu servants came, they would share news about them. The eldest young master of the Lu family had gone to the capital to take up his post shortly after his marriage. They were newlywed, and the young mistress wanted to go with him, but her frail body couldn't handle the long journey. Mama Zhang was old, and her children and grandchildren were all in Yuzhou, so it wasn't convenient for her to go. Therefore, Matron Lu ordered Ivy and Jasmine to accompany Master Elias to the capital to serve him. I sighed. Separated so soon after marriage, that young mistress was truly pitiful, but I only sighed for a moment. The past was like smoke. I was no longer a maid of the Lu residence, but the owner of the Orchid Gentleman Pavilion. The business at the Orchid Gentleman Pavilion got better and better. Soon, I hired another helper and 2 more chefs, but we were still incredibly busy. About half a year later, I began to think about expanding, turning the pavilion into a high-end restaurant. The only problem was finding a suitable location. I searched for a whole month with no luck. Just when I was worried, I heard that the Qingfeng Clear Wind restaurant in the city was about to close. The Qingfeng restaurant had a prime location, a beautiful building, and a well-designed interior. Many people had their eye on it. Although I had some savings, I wasn't confident I could secure the lease. Unexpectedly, when the owner of Qingfeng restaurant heard it was me, he praised my Orchid Gentleman Pavilion, saying I was skillful, original, and innovative to have made my business so successful in such a short time. He said I was surely a person of extraordinary talent and would certainly have a great future. Then, without a second word, he leased the restaurant to me at a very low price. I had been preparing all sorts of tactics to negotiate the price, but it turned out I got a huge bargain. I was overjoyed, stood stunned for a solid minute, and then, coming back to my senses, I spun around in excitement. After leasing the restaurant, I began renovations. I didn't modernize it too much. I just divided the ground floor for regular diners, with about 10 tables. The decoration wasn't overly elaborate. The important thing was good lighting, to give it a bright, open feeling. The second floor was divided into 8 private rooms, each with a different theme: plum, orchid, bamboo, chrysanthemum, clear wind, lotus, white snow, and bright moon. On the restaurant's opening day, the second young master of the Lu family, Julian, also came to show support. As a former maid of the Lu residence, I naturally received him with respect. Master Julian entered the orchid room. This room was decorated with several pots of orchids I had grown myself to save money. On the wall hung a piece of calligraphy written by me, that same, Shuidiao Jitu. Poem. Master Julian stared at the calligraphy for a very long time, so long that I wanted to remind him, Master Julian, are you here to eat, or to look at calligraphy? He looked at me and asked, who wrote this? Replying to the second young master I did. After hearing this, Master Julian lowered his head, chuckled, shook his head, and sighed softly. You have already left the residence. You are no longer a servant of the Liu family. You don't need to call me second young master. My name is Julian, you can call me Master Julian? I laughed inwardly but didn't mind. He had a point, so I replied, yes, Master Julian. He seemed very pleased, snapped open his fan, and smiled broadly. From then on, he often came to the Orchid Gentleman Pavilion. Sometimes with friends, sometimes just with his attendant, and sometimes he'd come all alone. But every time, he only went to the orchid room. Occasionally, he would call me in to serve him, and I would oblige. After all, he was spending money, and I was earning it. The customer is king, especially a VIP customer. I naturally treated him with great hospitality. Just like that, the business of the Lan Junlu Orchid Gentleman Restaurant became more and more prosperous. From me, the owner, down to the servers, everyone worked with passion, their faces beaming. Only the former owner, now Steward Lee, looked worried. Several times, he looked at me, wanting to say something, but stopped. I called him over to ask. He hesitated several times before finally speaking. Miss Yang, you saved my life. This old man will speak frankly. Steward Lee was someone I had found on the street. At the time, he was filthy, lying on the road, and had fainted in front of my eatery. The staff wanted to chase him away, but I saw him. I had people carry him to the back courtyard and brought him warm congee and small dishes. After he had eaten, I had someone bathe him, change his clothes and comb his hair. Unexpectedly, he cleaned up to be a rather refined-looking man. I asked him if he had anywhere to go. He said he used to be the manager of a small inn in the city, had handled the accounts for decades, and dealt with all sorts of people. But his children were unfilial. Seeing that he was old and had no more value, they kicked him out. Now he was homeless, with nowhere to go. If he hadn't met me, he feared he would have starved to death on the street. Hearing his story, my eyes lit up. This was talent. I was secretly overjoyed, almost slapping my thigh and thanking the heavens for sending me this man. After that, Steward Lee stayed at the Orchid Gentleman Pavilion, and then came with me to the Orchid Gentleman Restaurant to be the manager. Since he took over the books, there has almost never been a mistake. I felt much more at ease and was privately thrilled for a long time. Hearing him speak so seriously, I also sat up straight. Steward Lee, please, just say it. He said that while the restaurant's booming business was good, he feared it was blocking someone else's path and could easily lead to trouble. I was startled. It was true. I had been a bit arrogant lately, blinded by our success. Steward Lee, please advise me. He waved his hands. I wouldn't dare advise. It's just that this old man has lived on this street for many years and understands a few things. Since the Orchid Gentleman Restaurant opened, business has been booming. We've taken many customers from other restaurants, especially the Mingyu Ju, Bright Moon residence nearby, which has been hit hard. Mingyu Ju was originally the best and most luxurious restaurant in the city, always favored by the wealthy young masters. But our new restaurant stole more than half their clientele. In the long run, I fear this is not good. Steward Lee, when you open a business, isn't competition normal? We are competing fairly. Surely there's no problem. Steward Lee sighed. You don't know. The owner of Mingyu Ju is the nephew of the assistant prefect of Yuzhou. Over the years, the assistant prefect has reaped considerable benefits from there. By hindering Mingyu Ju's business, aren't we blocking the assistant prefect's path to wealth? If this continues, I fear we'll be in trouble. I was completely stunned. I had always known that commoners couldn't fight officials. They had powerful backing. Crushing me would be effortless. I truly had to think of a countermeasure, but it was so hard to think of one. Was I supposed to destroy my own business, just close up shop? What then? How would my staff survive? Before I could even think of a solution, disaster struck. That day, the Orchid Gentleman Restaurant opened for business as usual. Master Julian, I should call him Master Julian, arrived early in the morning, booked the orchid room, and sat inside without coming out. It was almost noon. Finding this strange, I knocked and entered. I saw the back window of the orchid room was open, while he just sat there reading a book. A pot of tea was on the table. It seemed he was waiting for someone. I asked. Master Julian, you seem to be at leisure. Why come to the Orchid Gentleman restaurant to read a book? Am I not allowed? He replied without looking up. Of course not. Master Julian can stay as long as he likes, but it is already noon. Would you like to have a meal? Only then did he look up at me. That sounds good. Please arrange it, Boss Yang. This was the first time he had called me Boss Yang. It felt strange, but I said nothing and prepared to go arrange his lunch. Before I could even leave the room, I heard a commotion outside, mixed with the shouts of constables. I hurried to open the door to see what was happening, but someone pulled me back. Master Julian pulled my hand, drawing me to the back window. This window overlooked the restaurant's rear courtyard. I saw a person in dark, masked clothing stumble out from the main hall into the backyard. When he reached the wall, he seemed to gain a strange strength, kicking off it twice, leaping onto the wall, and disappearing over the other side. Just as the masked man vanished, the pursuing constables burst into the courtyard. I looked at Master Julian, full of suspicion. He stepped aside, idly flicking his closed fan, and said to me, "You can go out now." I hurried out. The lead constable was standing in the middle of the main hall, shouting, "Who is the owner? Get out here." I rushed downstairs and bowed. "Officer, I am the owner of the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. May I ask what the matter is?" The constable glanced at me, then sneered without making eye contact. "So, it's a woman. Last night, the assistant prefect's house was robbed. We chased the thief here, and he vanished into your restaurant. I want to search the Orchid Gentleman restaurant." Without waiting for my reply, he waved his hand. "Search." The constables immediately fanned out, searching the rooms, rushing into the backyard, and driving out the customers. They turned the entire restaurant upside down. A moment later, a constable shouted, "Found it? Found it?" I saw him run over, holding a large jade necklace. I stared at the necklace, completely bewildered. I had never seen it before. The lead constable held up the necklace and boomed, "The evidence is undeniable. What do you have to say for yourself? Where are the other stolen goods?" I looked up at him and pleaded, "I have never seen this necklace, nor have I seen any of the items you mentioned. I am just an honest businesswoman. There must be a misunderstanding." The constable ignored me. "You won't confess? Then come with me to the yamen and explain it there. Men, arrest her." The constables rushed forward and restrained me. I couldn't escape and could only let them drag me away. At this point, if I still didn't understand what was happening, I would have died an ignorant death. The assistant prefect's house was robbed, the thief ran into my restaurant, and the constables found the stolen goods here. It was clearly a trap, but even knowing it was a trap, I was now a fish on the chopping block. How could I resist? In the courtroom, the magistrate slammed his gavel, just like in the movies, and began the interrogation. "State your name." "Your Honor, this common woman is the owner of the Orchid Gentleman restaurant." "Oh, Constable Lee says you colluded with a thief to steal property from the assistant prefect's residence. The evidence is clear. Do you confess?" "Your Honor, this woman does not confess. Constable Lee saw the thief enter your restaurant with his own eyes and then disappear." "How do you explain that?" At this point, I had already fallen into their trap. I might as well be frank. If this official was an upright man, he might see the ambiguity, and I might have a chance. I stood straight and continued, "Your Honor, this woman did indeed see that thief, but the truth is not as Constable Lee described." "Then what is it?" "The thief entered the restaurant, ran straight through the main hall into the backyard, and climbed over the wall to escape. He never stopped. It's clear he just used my restaurant as a passage. It has nothing to do with me." The magistrate said, "If you claim it's unrelated, then explain how the stolen property from the assistant prefect's residence was found in your restaurant." This woman doesn't know." I was about to say I was framed, but I stopped myself. Perhaps the thief was in such a hurry that he dropped it. Nonsense. We were in pursuit the entire time. Why didn't he drop it earlier or later? But exactly in your restaurant. If you weren't colluding, how could it be such a coincidence? He disappeared in your restaurant, and the stolen goods were found there. You must have plotted this together. One steals and one fences the goods." Constable Lee said excitedly, as if my guilt was already confirmed. "Constable Lee, you insist I colluded with the thief. Did you see it with your own eyes? What proof do you have?" "This necklace is the proof," Constable Lee said stubbornly. I gave a cold, angry laugh. "You only found one necklace in my restaurant. Did you find any of the other items? You say the thief vanished in my restaurant, I say he climbed the wall to escape. Why don't you believe me? Why didn't you give chase? You didn't pursue the thief, yet you insist I'm his accomplice based on this single necklace. Isn't that an outrageous accusation? Silence. No shouting in the courtroom. Insolence. The magistrate slammed his gavel, his voice booming. So, Constable Lee can shout loud enough to be heard 5 miles away, but I can't even raise my voice. It was clear the magistrate and the constable were on the same side. Before the magistrate could speak, I said quickly, Your Honor, this woman has a witness who can prove that my words are true. Oh, and who is this witness? Your Honor, it is the second young master of the Liu family, Master Julian. At the time, he was in the orchid room and personally witnessed the thief run from the main hall and climb the wall to escape. Upon hearing the Liu family name, the magistrate's expression clearly changed. In that case, summon Master Julian. There is no need to trouble Your Honor. I am already here. I turned to see Master Julian standing just outside the courtroom, clearly having waited for some time. I watched him enter, his expression stern, all traces of his usual playfulness gone. He wore a blue robe embroidered with green bamboo, a jade pendant at his waist, making his tall figure seem even more imposing. He held a folded fan, his other hand behind his back, and slowly walked in with a calm and noble air. A true aristocratic master. He cupped his hands in a salute. Julian pays his respects to the magistrate. Master Julian, you are too kind. Attendants, bring a seat for Master Julian. The magistrate beamed like a chrysanthemum, his smiling wrinkles giving me goosebumps. There is no need, Your Honor. That would be improper. I am here as a witness, so let us get straight to the point. Yes, Master Julian is right. We've invited Master Julian to ask about the owner of the Orchid Gentleman restaurant colluding with a thief. You must be aware of the situation. Master Julian, were the restaurant owner's words true? Master Julian didn't look at me. He just nodded and said, Your Honor, what Boss Yang said is completely true. I personally saw the thief run through the backyard and climb the wall without stopping. At that time, Boss Yang was with me and had no contact with the thief. It is clear that she is innocent. Constable Lee looked like he was about to interject, but the magistrate shot him a glare, silencing him. Even so, the magistrate said, Master Julian's testimony only proves the thief did not stop. The thief has not been caught, and the stolen goods have not been recovered. Yet, an item was found in the restaurant. Boss Yang is still under suspicion. Therefore, this court rules that we will not detain Boss Yang for now, but the Orchid Gentleman restaurant must be sealed until the case is solved and the goods are recovered. I was about to argue, but Master Julian signaled for me to be quiet, so I held my tongue. Leaving the courtroom, Master Julian and I walked back together. He spent the whole way flicking his fan, saying nothing. I was also silent. After a long while, Master Julian seemed unable to stand it. Do you have nothing to say to me? I stopped and replied, Of course I do. I straightened up and bowed deeply. Jiqui thanks Master Julian for saving my life. Oh, is that all? Yes, I thought you would ask why I stopped you from speaking. I shook my head. I didn't understand at first, but now I do. Oh, and what do you understand? Tell me, I answered softly. The Orchid Gentleman restaurant's business is too good. It blocked others' paths and naturally bred resentment. Anyone with a sharp eye would know something was wrong with today's events. What was the point of me arguing? If Master Julian hadn't been there to save me, I fear I would have been jailed. Since it's already come to this, saying more is useless. It would only bring more trouble upon myself. It seems you are quite clever. Master Julian looked at me with appreciation. I shook my head. I wouldn't dare claim to be clever, but there is one thing Jiqui still doesn't understand, and I hope Master Julian can enlighten me. Regarding today's events, it seems you knew what was going to happen. But I don't know how you knew beforehand. Master Julian narrowed his eyes slightly and was silent for a moment. Do you suspect I had something to do with this? Jiqui wouldn't dare. If you wanted to harm me, why would you save me? I am merely curious. Master Julian's brow relaxed. He flicked his fan open and smiled. While I may not be like my elder brother, so learned and talented as to become an official at court, I still studied alongside him since we were young. I have some knowledge. And don't forget, for all these years, I have been the one managing most of the Liu family's businesses. Our businesses are all over Yuzhou. How could any disturbance in this city escape my notice? Last night, I heard the assistant prefect's house was robbed, and I guessed one or two things. I came to your restaurant today to verify my suspicions. So that's how it was. I never realized Master Julian was so resourceful. This humble woman is truly impressed. I flattered him. Who knew he would suddenly drop his smile, step closer and look directly into my eyes? What in your eyes? Is only my elder brother talented, while I am just a useless playboy? I cursed inwardly. Why did he have to bring this up? Wasn't I just asking a simple question? Why did he have to drag the eldest young master into it? I didn't say anything about him. No, of course not. I just didn't know before. Please, Master Julian. Shemph. Back then, you only had eyes for my elder brother. No. I was working in the Boya courtyard. Naturally, I had to be concerned about my master. Hearing that, Master Julian finally stepped back. Let's go, he said and started walking ahead. I clutched my chest in relief and hurried to follow. When we got back to the restaurant, we saw the constables already pasting seals on the doors. I sighed. The Yemen. Master Julian looked at the sealed restaurant and said, I thought you would ask me, help you reopen it. I replied. This time, my restaurant has offended powerful people. The magistrate, out of respect for the Liu family, spared my life and only sealed the restaurant. I am already deeply grateful. Though I am just a weak woman, I know how to repay kindness. I thank you, Master Julian. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely repay this debt. I finished with a deep, respectful bow. Master Julian looked at me. Boss Yang, you must remember to repay me. Don't forget. I thought to myself, this isn't right. Shouldn't he say it was a small matter and not to worry about it? That's how it always goes in the plays. Why is my situation different? Regardless, I maintained a serious expression and replied respectfully, that is only natural. Master Julian laughed heartily, flicked his fan and departed. Back at the Orchid Gentleman restaurant, Sister Hannah and Steward Lee were waiting anxiously. They were overjoyed to see me return safely. Sister Hannah grabbed my hand and asked what happened. I gave them a brief summary, leaving out the part about the conspiracy between the official and the merchant. After hearing it, Sister Hannah was furious. That damned thief, getting an innocent person in trouble. I gave a bitter smile, thinking to myself, it wasn't random. It was all a plot. Steward Lee heard the implications. Miss Yang, does this mean, if the thief isn't caught and the goods aren't recovered, our restaurant can't reopen? I nodded. Steward Lee panicked. Then what do we do? I said calmly. Steward Lee, please tell the staff. I don't know if we can turn this around. I really have no solution. Tell everyone that anyone who wishes to leave can settle their wages and find other work. That includes you. Steward Lee immediately protested. Miss Yang, don't worry. This old man is not an ungrateful person. The restaurant is in trouble. How could I leave now? I will absolutely not leave. I was touched, but I insisted. Steward Lee, please don't say that. Everyone needs to make a living. The restaurant is sealed. We have no business. What will I use to pay everyone's wages? It's better for everyone to find other work. Steward Lee's eyes were red, but he was resolute. I don't know about the others, but you saved my life, Miss Yang. Forget not getting paid. I'd be willing to work for free. He wiped his eyes and continued, don't worry, Miss Yang. I will go talk to them. He then turned and went to the back courtyard. After Steward Lee left, I urged Sister Hannah to go home. I sat alone in the main hall, staring at the empty, sealed restaurant, feeling a hopelessness I had never felt before. I once thought that after leaving the Liu residence, I could rely on my own efforts to live well, to control my own destiny. I even naively thought I could be like those transmigrated heroines and become a legend. But now, just as I was starting, I've been struck down, unable to move. It turns out that anywhere, in any society, even with the perspective of a transmigrator, I still have to bow to the times. In the end, I am just a small person, with no power to fight this era. I felt exhausted. I went up to the second floor, and into the orchid whim. I opened the window, letting the wind blow over me. And then, I caught a cold. Steward Lee found me when I was burning with fever. I had to drink 2 large pots of water before I felt coherent again. He told me that none of the staff wanted to leave. He couldn't persuade them. I asked, did you tell them I can't pay their wages? I did. But they're all like Lee. They don't want to leave even without pay. Why? Everyone needs to work. How can they be willing to work for free? Why not? It's not this old man saying it, but where else? Can they find a boss as good as you, Miss Yang? The high pay aside, you give them 5 days off every month and bonuses for holidays. If anyone has trouble, you never refuse to help if you can. Where else could they find such a good boss? Not to mention Xiao Hong and Xiao Yu. Besides you, who else in Yuzhou would hire them for the kitchen? Unless it's a brothel or a song and dance hall, no one would take them. As someone who had lived in the 21st century, I just saw these as basic employee benefits. How could it be worthy of such gratitude? So stewardly, really no one wants to leave, I asked. Well, there is one. Xiao Li from the kitchen, but it's not without reason. Oh, what is it? You see, Miss Yang, Xiao Li has elderly parents and young children at home. He wanted to stay, like everyone else, but his whole family of 5 or 6 depends on him. Steward Li sighed. In that case, Steward Li, please settle Xiao Li's wages and give him 2 extra coins. There are probably some pastries left in the kitchen. Let him take them home for his children. It's a waste to let them spoil. Steward Li replied, yes, this old man will do it right away. Before Steward Li could even leave the room, I collapsed from exhaustion. I had a long, long dream. I dreamed of the lake I knew so well, the crescent moon I loved most. I dreamed I was wearing my favorite red dress, sitting quietly on a bench, happily waiting for my ice cream. I saw a boy running over with 2 ice cream cones. He excitedly handed one to me and said, Jikui, here. Eat it quick before it melts. Jiki, who is Jukui? I looked up in surprise, only to see the boy transform into a man in ancient robes. His face and attire were clearly those of the eldest young master of the Liu family. Elias, I cried out, but the world around me collapsed. I was standing in a burning house, hearing someone outside calling my name, a heart-wrenching sound. Calling, Lily. I knew who it was. I wanted to run out, but I couldn't find an exit. I could only watch the flames grow larger, in despair. Suddenly, a voice spoke from behind me. Jikui, it's time to go back. I screamed. No, I am not Jukui. I am Lilian Li, not Jukui Yang. I'm not. When I woke up, Sister Hannah was sitting by my bed. Seeing me awake, she touched my forehead. Feeling that the fever had subsided, she finally relaxed and asked, Jikui, you're finally awake. How do you feel? Sister Hannah, how long was I asleep? I managed to ask, my voice hoarse. You've been asleep for 2 days and 2 nights. Your fever wouldn't break. You scared everyone to death. Have you been here the whole time? Not just me. For the past few days, the second young master of the Liu family has also been visiting frequently. Now that you're awake, should I send word to him? Why would he come? To show he cares about you, of course. Sister Hannah replied. Is that so? I never thought a poor restaurant owner like me would receive the concern of the second young master. I am truly, truly honored. Just saying that long sentence made me start to cough. Jikui, slow down. Don't talk so much, Hannah said, patting my back. Then she sat by the bed, looking hesitant, as if she wanted to say something but stopped. I couldn't stand it. Sister Hannah, is there something you want to say? Is there or isn't there? If there is, just say it. Hannah was quiet for a moment, then said, Jikui, I have to ask, do you have feelings for the second young master? Sister Hannah, why would you ask that? There's something. I don't know if I should tell you. What is it? Just tell me. I suddenly felt curious. I urged her to hurry. The second young master. What? He's getting engaged. When? Why so suddenly? I asked, startled. It just happened these past few days. The second matron personally selected the only daughter of Magistrate Wang. I was stunned for 2 seconds, then said to Hannah, this is a good thing. Master Julian isn't young anymore. He should get married soon. I've heard about Magistrate Wang's daughter. They say she's as beautiful as a flower, dignified and virtuous, skilled in all the arts, and her embroidery is said to be unmatched even by professional seamstresses. If she really marries Master Julian, it's a perfect match of talent and beauty. You really think so? Hannah asked. Yes. Oh, and one more thing. Most importantly, the young lady from the Wang family is in good health. The second matron won't have to worry about grandchildren. I hadn't even finished my sentence when I saw Sauters standing at the door. Master Julian was right there, staring at me. When he saw me looking, he walked towards me, step by step. I wanted to remind him this was my bedchamber. He reached my bedside and Hannah quickly gave up her seat, letting him sit down. He stared at me and I stared back, my eyes full of confusion and unease. He looked at me, his eyes seeming to blaze with fire, which then slowly died out. He asked me, is that what you really think? His voice was gentler than I had ever heard it, tinged with sadness and helplessness. I looked at him, a little flustered, then met his gaze directly and nodded firmly. The room was silent, save for the sound of our breathing. After a while, I couldn't bear it and spoke up. The young lady from the Wang family is indeed a perfect match. Jikui congratulates you, Master Julian. I wish you both happiness, a long life together, and many children. I see. Then I thanked Boss Yang for her well wishes. After saying this, he turned and left quickly, without a trace of reluctance. Watching his retreating back, I felt a slight pang in my chest. Jikwi, I can tell the second young master doesn't treat you normally. He definitely has feelings for you. Don't you have any feelings for him at all? Hannah asked after he left. I do, but it's just friendship, not romantic love. I paused, then continued. Sister Hannah, I know my place. I have never thought of becoming anyone's concubine. Otherwise, I wouldn't have left the Liu family. Let's not talk about this anymore. Hannah knew my personality and didn't say anything more. A few days later, the engagement between the Liu and Wang families was officially announced. I was feeling better. The fever was gone, but I was left with a persistent cough. Hannah stayed by my side, and seeing me cough endlessly, she suggested fetching a doctor. I quickly waved my hand. No, it's nothing serious, just a cough. No need to trouble a doctor. Besides, since the restaurant is closed anyway, I'd rather go to the clinic myself. I can treat it as a walk. Hannah thought for a moment and agreed it was a reasonable idea. That day, Hannah and I went to the Baotang clinic. Baotang was the largest medical hall in Yuzhou, and its doctors were the best in the city. When many families fell ill, their first or last choice was always to invite a doctor from Baotang. I arrived late and had to wait in line. When it was finally my turn, the doctor had just finished taking my pulse. Before he could say anything, a young apprentice rushed in and said, Master, the prefect's wife is coughing again. Someone from the prefect's residence is here to fetch you. I was a little annoyed. It had taken so long to get my turn, and now I was being cut in line. Before I could even protest, the doctor waved his hand dismissively. Not going, not going. Tell them to find another doctor. I'm not going. The apprentice looked troubled, but didn't dare argue, and left with his head down. I noted that this doctor, who seemed so gentle, had such a reaction to the prefect's wife. I politely asked about my symptoms, and what I should be mindful of, listening to his advice. The doctor, seeing I was cooperative, nodded in satisfaction, stroking his beard. Seeing him in a better mood, I couldn't help but ask, Doctor, your skills are great and your temper is good. Why did you get so angry at the mention of the prefect's wife? Is her illness very serious? The doctor, seeing my sincere question, replied. What's serious about it? It's just a seasonal cough. A few doses of medicine to regulate her system and she'd be fine. Then why were you so angry? Is she a difficult patient? No, the prefect's wife has a good temperament. The problem is, she refuses to drink the medicine. If she manages to drink one spoonful from a whole bowl, it's a miracle. They say medicine cures the sickness. If she won't drink it, I'm helpless, even if I were an immortal. You could just explain that. It doesn't seem like something to get so angry about. You don't know. The prefect dotes on his wife. Seeing her uncomfortable, he demanded I prescribe medicine that isn't bitter, preferably sweet. Bitter medicine for a bitter illness. Honest advice is hard to hear. Isn't he just making things difficult for me? I've practiced medicine for so many years and never met such a person. How can medicine be deliciously sweet? As the doctor spoke, his anger flared up again, his resentment clearly deep from being pestered by the prefect so many times. Hearing this, my interest was piqued. I asked for more details about the prefect's wife's symptoms, memorized them, and began forming a plan. I thanked the doctor and left. On the way back, I asked Hannah to go shopping with me. I bought fresh mint, pears, fritillary bulbs, fresh ginger, malt sugar, honey, lard, and various other things. When we returned to the Orchid Gentleman restaurant, I asked Hannah to find Zhang Sheng and have him meet me. 2 years ago, when Master Elias passed his exam and went to the capital, Zhang Sheng had gone with him. But recently, Zhang Sheng's father had fallen gravely ill. Master Elias had given him special permission to return home to care for him, and he was only scheduled to rejoin the master in the capital this year. Right now, Zhang Sheng was in Yuzhou. Hannah, not understanding why, looked at me curiously and asked what I was doing. I just replied, Sister Hannah, don't ask for now. When this is successful, I'll tell you everything. I can only say that if this goes well, the Orchid Gentleman restaurant might be able to reopen. Please, hurry and find Zhang Sheng for me. Hannah wanted to ask more, but I pushed her out the door. The moment she left, I went into the kitchen. I thought to myself, it all comes down to this. I crushed the mint, pears and ginger and juiced them. Then I mixed the juice with powdered fritillary, added malt sugar, honey, lard, and dried tangerine peel, and brought it all to a boil. When the mixture had thickened into a paste, I poured it into small square molds and placed them in the cold well water to cool. When the mixture had set, It turned into orange, yellow lozenges. I tasted one. The coolness of the mint, the sweetness of the honey, and a cooling sensation spread through my lungs. I felt much more comfortable. By the time Hannah brought Zhang Sheng over, I was just, popping the lozenges out of the molds. I knew Zhang Sheng was smart and well-connected. I got straight to the point. Brother Zhang Sheng, I won't hide it from you. I asked you here today because I need a favor. Zhang Sheng, Hannah, and I were old acquaintances. He didn't stand on ceremony. If you have something to say, just say it. We've worked together for so long, no need to be polite. In that case, I won't be. I need your help finding someone. It doesn't matter who, as long as they are close to the prefect's wife, and are someone we can talk to. Zhang Sheng replied, that's easy. Wait a moment. His efficiency was truly impressive. By the time I had the second batch of lozenges out of the molds, he had already returned, bringing a middle-aged matchmaker with him. After introductions, I learned that this was Granny's son. She had been the prefect's wife's personal servant since her marriage, and was now her most trusted attendant. I wrapped the lozenges carefully in paper, then handed Granny's son a thick envelope and whispered a few instructions before seeing her out. The following days, I stayed in the kitchen making lozenges. Hannah, when she wasn't busy, would come and help. She asked me several times what I was doing, but I just smiled and didn't answer. After a few days, Granny's son came again. I invited her in and pointedly asked why she had come. She replied, Boss Yang, I did as you said last time. When the matron was coughing, I gave her one of your lozenges. She said it soothed her throat and eased her cough significantly. These past few days, she's had one every time she coughed. Today, the lozenges ran out, and she's been coughing nonstop. The prefect sent me to buy more. I smiled. Granny's son, your work is impeccable. Jukui is very impressed. I then had Hannah bring out good tea and pastries. But you may have to wait a little while. Please, sit and have some tea. With that, I went back to the kitchen. A little while later, I came out with a bowl of the candy paste, still warm and not yet set. I gave the bowl to Granny's son, along with another envelope and a few more instructions. Granny's son understood and left with the bowl. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Granny's son returned. She said the prefect wanted to see me. I had Hannah pack the newest batch of set lozenges, and then I left with Granny's son. In the carriage, she whispered to me, Boss Yang, I did as you instructed. When I got back, the prefect and his wife saw the bowl and asked what happened. I told them just what you said, that the Orchid Gentleman restaurant was sealed by the magistrate on suspicion of harboring a criminal. I said these were made in a hurry by the owner, who feared the matron would need them, and that they hadn't even had time to set. Hearing this, I smiled, took Granny's son's hand, and slipped the bracelet from my wrist onto hers. This time, I truly thank you, Granny's son. This is a small token. Please don't refuse it. When we arrived at the prefect's residence, I handed the lozenges to Granny's son and then went to see the prefect. He was not in his official robes, but a dark purple, black, trimmed long gown. He was tall, his hair neatly tied up. His face was mild, and his eyes were sharp, and his brows held a natural authority. I bowed respectfully. This common woman, Jukui Yang, pays respects to the prefect. At ease. The prefect didn't beat around the bush. The lozenge my household servant bought from your restaurant is very good. Today, I heard your restaurant was sealed, which seems questionable. I invited you here to hear your explanation. Boss Yang, would you care to elaborate? My heart leaped with joy. Would I? I couldn't have prayed for a better opportunity. On the outside, I remained calm and respectful. Thank you, Your Honor, for your concern. It is like this. I recounted the entire incident from beginning to end, how the thief entered, how he left, how Master Julian witnessed it, and the final judgment, from the magistrate. After listening, the prefect said, from your account, this case is indeed full of suspicious points. To seal your restaurant over just this is improper. Now that I am aware, I will personally investigate. If this is a misunderstanding, I will certainly restore the Orchid Gentleman restaurant's innocence. I immediately bowed respectfully. Thank you, Your Honor. After speaking with the prefect, I was about to take my leave when Granny's son hurried in. Your Honor, the matron heard that the owner of the Orchid Gentleman restaurant has arrived, and that she is a love woman, and wishes to meet her. She sent me to invite her. The prefect turned to me. My wife invites you. I wonder if the owner is willing. If the matron wishes to see me, it is this commoner's blessing. How could I dare refuse? I replied respectfully. I followed Granny's son through a small garden and 2 corridors to a courtyard. She led me inside. In the room, A beautiful woman sat in the main seat. Her skin was pale, her eyes round, her lips red, and her cheeks flushed from a recent cough. I bowed my head. This commoner, Zhuqi Yang, pays respects to the matron. No need for ceremony, please, sit. Someone, serve tea. The matron spoke but started coughing before she could finish. A maid served tea. The matron took a small sip, then another, swallowing slowly, before setting the cup down and daintily wiping her mouth. She looked at me. I have a chronic cough. My apologies for my rudeness. Not at all, mere too kind. I hurried to say. The owner of the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. Your lozenges are very good. Although they don't cure my cough, they relieve it significantly. Do you know medicine? She asked. To be honest, matron, I do not. These lozenges were something my parents made for me when I was young. I found them sweet and soothing for the lungs, so I just improved upon the recipe. The fact that they work for your cough, matron, must be a coincidence. I explained. The matron sighed. The lozenges are sweet and delicious. I love them. If all medicine tasted this good, that would be wonderful. If you like them, matron, this commoner will make more to send to the residents. I replied. I have something to ask you, though it may be a bit bold. I hope you don't mind. Please, matron, speak. I heard that you were once a maid in the Lu residence, and that you were highly favored by matron Lu and the young master. Yet, you asked to leave the residence, giving up a life of comfort and choosing a difficult path. I wonder, for what reason? Replying to the matron, Zhuqi knew her blessings were thin and she was unworthy of the Lu family, so she left. No need for such pleasantries. I want to hear the truth. The matron said, quite directly. I thought for a moment, then said, replying to the matron, Zhuqi chose to leave because I wanted to be the master of my own life. The Lu residence is magnificent, but it does not have the freedom Zhuqi longs for. I never thought a woman like you could have such spirit. You not only didn't care to be a concubine of the Lu family, but you also seemed to disdain the position. Good, very good. I like people with backbone like you, much more than those fakes. The matron nodded in approval, coughing lightly. It has been a long time since I've met someone I've clicked with so well. I am a few years older than you. If you don't mind, just call me older sister. This commoner wouldn't dare. Ha ha. What's there to not dare? I'm not one for stiff formalities. If you're fine with it, let's just do that, she laughed. Sister Tessa. I replied. After the meeting, I returned to the restaurant. A few days later, a constable came again, saying the prefect was personally reviewing the case and requested my cooperation. I happily agreed. Things went more smoothly than I expected. The prefect quickly uncovered the truth and guessed the conspiracy behind it. Because the prefect held so much power, the assistant prefect didn't dare to confront him. After 2 months of being sealed, the Orchid Gentleman, Nehler restaurant finally reopened to the sound of firecrackers. On the day we reopened, I hung up a notice stating that, aside from a 3-day promotion, the prices for our dishes would be significantly increased, and our specialty dishes would be available in limited quantities. 3 days later, I personally visited the Mingyu Ju. With my connection to the prefect's wife and my show of goodwill, the owner of Mingyu Ju happily met with me. As a businesswoman, I was direct. I explained I was just a woman trying to make a living in Yuzhou, seeking a place to shelter me from the wind and rain, not to make enemies. We are all just trying to run a business. I hoped we could coexist peacefully and for mutual benefit. The owner of Mingyu Ju saw my sincerity and didn't make things difficult. At least on the surface, we reached an agreement. After that, for several months, the Orchid Gentleman restaurant's business stabilized. But Master Julian never came again. Then, at the end of the year, he suddenly arrived with his attendant. I warmly welcomed him inside, leading him, as always, to the orchid room. Master Julian, it's been a long time. I don't know what you'd like to eat. I can have the kitchen prepare it. We have several new specialty dishes. Would you like to try them? No need, he said. I came today for another matter. I wonder if Boss Yang still remembers that she owes me a favor. Of course, I remember. Zhuqi would never dare to forget the kindness Master Julian showed me. My heart skipped. Was he here today to call in that debt? But it was a life-saving favor. How did he expect me to repay it? I heard his wedding was set for next month. Surely he wouldn't demand I become his concubine or mistress. No, that wasn't right. That wasn't in his character. But he hadn't come for months. What if his temperament had changed? No, that's impossible. I am a modern university student. How could I be someone's concubine? It violates my principles. My mind raced with possibilities, and my expression must have been something to see. Master Julian watched my face flash from happy to worried. He found it amusing and waved his fan in front of my face. Hey, what are you thinking about? Your expression is changing every second. I snapped back to reality, pushing those wild thoughts aside. I smiled politely. Jikwi, Master Julian has come personally to ask for this favor, so you must want something from me. But, I've thought, and I truly don't know what I could possibly do for you. Oh, you really don't know what you can do? He deliberately drew out the last word, his tone teasing. My heart clenched in anxiety. I could only stammer, no, I don't. He suddenly laughed, as if he had guessed my thoughts. He looked at the orchids in the room and said, I, Julian, may be a romantic, but I am not indecent. I love flowers, but I do not pluck them. I am very fond of the orchids in this room, and I wish I could take them home. But a gentleman does not steal what another cherishes. How could I force you? I let out a huge sigh of relief, my relaxation so obvious that I could only laugh awkwardly. He paid it no mind and continued, I am really here on business. Boss Yang, you must know, I am getting married next month. I hear the pastries at the Orchid Gentleman restaurant are the best. Even the prefect's wife, Lady Tessa, praises them endlessly. I want to order a batch of pastries for my wedding, but I heard your pastries are all in limited supply. Since Boss Yang owes me a favor, I've come, thick-skinned, to call it in, that's all. I was quite surprised. I thought to myself, even if we have a limited supply, with Master Julian's status, how could I possibly refuse? It was only many years later that I understood. He wasn't there to make me repay a debt. He was just finding an excuse to clear my conscience, to let me and him, and the Liu family, be even. After this, neither he nor the Liu family could ever use that favor to make me do anything. Oh, is that all? It seems Boss Yang thinks that's too light. In that case, I will entrust the entire pastry order for my wedding to you, Boss Yang. I hope you will put your best effort into it. I remembered the eldest young master's wedding. The pastries flowed like water. My restaurant had to handle the entire order. How much silver would that cost? The restaurant had just recovered from a disaster, and now this. My eyebrows knitted together. I felt a pang of heartache. Before I could even process the pain, Master Julian leaned in close to my ear. His breath tickled my skin as he whispered, I'm getting married. Do you think my elder brother will return for it? I stood there stunned. Why was he bringing this up? His thoughts jumped so quickly. Master Julian saw my blank look. A teasing smile appeared on his face, but his eyes were empty of emotion. He flicked his fan, turned, and left. To prepare the pastries for Master Julian's wedding, I closed the restaurant for 3 days. I had all the staff and chefs focus on baking. I even invited Hannah and her husband, Aaron, to help and hired several temporary workers. Finally, we finished the entire order. On the wedding day, I watched as carriers transported load after load of pastries, all tied with red silk, into the Liu residence. I breathed a sigh of relief. Master Julian's wedding procession happened to pass by the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. I saw the procession. So long it filled the street, with no end in sight. The sound of gongs, drums, and joyful music was deafening. The crowd, dressed in red, snaked forward like a long red dragon. This must be what they call a 10-mile red dowry. I stood on the second floor, watching the procession get closer. Master Julian was in a bright red wedding robe, riding a tall horse, constantly cupping his hands in thanks to the well-wishers on both sides. When the procession passed directly under my window, he suddenly looked up. For some reason, I instinctively hid behind the door until the procession had passed. I watched it recede into the distance, silently wishing them well in my heart. May Master Julian and his wife live in harmony for 100 years, with many children and grandchildren. As I was lost in thought, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Steward Lee appeared behind me. Miss Yang, I have calculated the cost for the young master's order. I came to report to you. I snapped out of it. Steward Lee, please. Go ahead, Miss Yang, this time for the raw ingredients alone. Flour, sugar, fresh fruit, beans, and the like. The cost was about 30 gon strings of cash. The wages for the temporary staff, the pastry boxes, and the payment for Mr. and Mrs. Wang, as you requested, totaled 60 gon. In total, that's 90 gon. Converted to silver. What? How much did you say, Steward Lee? 90 taels. I felt a sharp pain in my heart and liver. Steward Lee continued, and that's not counting the losses from being closed for 3 days. If we add that, the loss is no less than 120 taels. I felt the silver coins in my mind dissolve into shimmering lights, then vanish. Instantly, I forgot all about Master Julian's wedding. Oh, damn it! That almost bankrupted me. I said to Stewardly, hurry. Open the doors for business. Ever since Master Julian's wedding, the financial situation at the Orchid Gentleman restaurant was not looking good. To recover our capital, as the boss, I led by example. I was busy in the front hall, then overseeing the back kitchen. Seeing this, none of the staff dared to be lazy. Everyone was full of energy. That afternoon, after a long, busy day, I was exhausted. I handed things over to the staff and went to the back courtyard to rest. I hadn't even finished a sip of hot tea when a waiter rushed in, saying there was a distinguished guest in the front hall who had specifically requested the orchid room. I said, if the orchid room is free, just show him in. What's the panic? We did. The waiter stammered. Just what? I saw his expression was unnatural. Was someone here to cause trouble? No. The guest is very polite. He's young, he said. He's an old acquaintance of yours, miss, and invites you for a chat. Oh, is that so? Wait for me to change. I'll be right there. The clothes I was wearing were wrinkled from a long day's work. I sent the waiter away, changed into a light blue outfit, fixed my hair, and then went to the front hall. I knew who it was. I knocked softly on the door. After hearing a reply, I entered. It was him, as expected, the eldest young master of the Liu family, Elias. We hadn't seen each other in years. His face was the same, but he had lost his youthful innocence. The pure, scholarly aura was lessened, replaced by a few traces of worldly wariness. His cold, quiet temperament was now even colder. He was standing in front of the Shuidiao calligraphy, studying it intently, as if trying to see flowers bloom within the characters. I bowed. Jikwi pays her respects to the eldest young master. He turned around. Just like Master Julian, he said, you are no longer a servant of the Liu family, nor are you my maid. There is no need for such ceremony, and no need to call me eldest young master. Then, what should I call you? Master Julian is already taken by the second young master. I can't possibly call you Master Elias, can I? A thought flashed in my mind. Yes, Lord Liu. He now held an important post and was an official in the capital. Calling him Lord Liu couldn't be more appropriate. He heard this and showed no expression, just gave a faint, and turned back to the calligraphy. I stood there, not knowing what to do, sighing inwardly about this man. What a strange person. He called me here but won't say a word. Why did he call me? Isn't this awkward? You're not awkward, but I am, big brother. How long are you going to stare at that? It's been so long, and you're still like this. My internal monologue was complex. Are you done? If you're not done, I'm leaving. I'll count to 10. If you still don't say anything, I'm gone. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. Before I even reached 10, Lord Liu suddenly spoke. I heard from my younger cousin that your orchid room has a Shuidiao Jetu hanging in it. The script is elegant, the form proper, and the spirit flows freely, perfectly matching the poem's artistic conception. Seeing it today, he was indeed correct. His sudden words stopped my count. Hearing him say all that, I was a bit dazed. I stood there, unsure how to respond. He turned, saw my blank look, and seemed amused. Before I could answer, he continued, the orchids in this room are very well cared for. Their spirit is long-lasting and elegant. I like them very much. I wonder if Juki would be willing to part with 2 pots. But doesn't your courtyard already have many orchids? I asked, confused. He sighed. These years, I have lived mostly in the capital. The Boya courtyard has been empty for a long time. The orchids there, no one cared for them. They've all withered. Oh, so that's it. The servants must have gotten lazy with the master away. Orchids are delicate, of course they would wither without care. If you like them, Lord Liu, I can have someone deliver them to the Liu residence. No need to trouble you. I will take them when I leave, I replied. Very well. And then we fell into another long silence. After a while, he finally spoke again. I hear your restaurant has many novel dishes. Is there anything would recommend? I quickly began to list our menu. I remembered Master Elias had a light palate. He didn't like spicy or oily food, so I recommended a few light appetizers and rolled pearl meatballs, rolled cabbage, cherry pork, hawthorn braised ribs, sticky rice chicken, and steamed pork in lotus leaf, along with a pot of lotus root and pork rib soup, which was rich but still refreshing. I also added a jug of newly brewed peach wine. He would probably like that. After the food was served, I was too embarrassed to sit and eat with him. He probably felt awkward having me watch him eat, so I excused myself. I walked through the front hall, went to the kitchen, but I still felt restless, so I decided to return to the backyard. At closing time, watching the night fall, I felt like a weight had been lifted. Before I could even catch my breath. Boss, the guest in the orchid room, he still hasn't left. What? Still here? Didn't you ask him to leave? We did. But his attendant? What? I'll go see. I straightened my clothes and went to the front hall. In front of the orchid room, I saw Zhang Sheng standing guard. He looked just like Master Elias, his face stern, unsmiling, blocking the waiter from entering. When he saw me, he nodded a greeting. I dismissed the waiter and asked, "Is Lord Lu still inside?" He grunted, in reply. "May I go in?" He immediately stepped aside, clearing the way. I knocked. No answer. I had to push the door open and go in. I saw Lord Lu slump empty wine jugs beside him. I called softly, "Lord Lu, Lord," no response. I raised my voice. "Lord Lu, Lord Lu," still no response. I couldn't stand it. I shook his shoulder, calling as I shook, "Lord Lu, Lord Lu." He finally stirred. His head moved, and he slowly looked up, his eyes hazy. When he saw me, he mumbled, "Shkui, Jukui," and then suddenly threw his arms around me. He was a full head taller than me. His chin rested perfectly on the top of my head. I could feel his jaw move as he spoke, in a voice I had never heard before, filled with longing, desire, grievance, restraint, and pain. He said, "Jikui, I've missed you so much. It's been so long since I've seen you. I've missed you terribly. You changed the orchids in my room. I knew. You made all kinds of pastries for me. I knew. You had Zhang Sheng light the calming incense. I knew that too. Even the words you embroidered on the wool pouch. May you top the examination list." I saw them. And I really did top the list, Jukui. I didn't let him finish. I struggled out of his embrace, taking several steps back to put distance between us. "Lord Lu, you are drunk. I will go get Zhang Sheng to take you home." He had suddenly lost his support. He looked up, saw me pressed against the wall, and his hazy eyes seemed to clear by a fraction. He stared at me and walked over, step by step. I watched him warily, afraid he would lose control again. He only placed his hands on my shoulders, looked into my eyes, and asked, word, "Why? Can you tell me why?" "Why'd? What?" I could see it. "In the Lu residence, the way you looked at me, it wasn't like the others. I saw you get lost in thought. I saw the affection in your eyes. But why? Every time I wanted to look closer, to get closer, to understand you, you would become cold, restrained, and distant. All that affection, it seemed like an illusion. But I know I wasn't mistaken. But the indifference in your eyes, that was real too. Tell me why. Why did you give me that illusion, only to shatter it so quickly? Even if it was just an illusion, why couldn't you let it last longer? Even just a little would have been enough." I looked at the face in front of me, so close. Still the same sword-like brows, the same bright phoenix eyes, the same straight nose, the same lips. The only difference was the missing mole near the corner of his eye. I looked at this face, and it slowly overlapped with the face of the boy in my memory. How many times had I stared at this face, dazed? How many times, had I looked at this face and forgotten my status, my situation? How many times had I looked at this face and been unable to distinguish reality? But no matter how many times this face made my heart stir, I was always soberly aware he was not him. The man in front of me was born in a patriarchal society, bound by feudal etiquette, carrying the hopes of the Lu family's revival on his shoulders. He was not the boy who indulged my every whim, who bought me ice cream. The man in front of me might, out of love, take me as a concubine. He might, out of love, pamper me and protect me. But he would never defy etiquette and marry me as his wife. If the man in front of me said he loved me, I was expected to be grateful, endlessly appreciative. He was not the man who quietly cleaned up all my messes, secretly weaving me into his future. The love this man offered was a charity, a blessing, not equality and respect. I had, because of that same face, that same quiet personality, felt a stirring of compassion. But I was always aware he was not him. How could he be? They were separated by an insurmountable gap of over 1,000 years. It wasn't just him, it was also me. I looked up at his face, at those deep, focused, pitiful eyes. I so badly wanted him to be him. But 1,000 years separated us. He was not. Tears welled up in my eyes. For Lord Lu, for myself and for him. Lord Lu saw my red-rimmed eyes, the tears about to fall. A panic flashed in his own eyes. His usually steady voice became flustered. Jukui, don't cry. I didn't mean to force you. I just want to know, was there ever a place for me in your heart? I just want to know that what I saw, it wasn't an illusion. Was it? I blinked, forcing the tears back. I heard my own voice, clear and slow. Lord Lu, you are overthinking. To me, the eldest young master is just the eldest young master. In the past, you were my master. Now, there is nothing else. I watched the light in his eyes. The hope, the anticipation, the longing, even the prayer, slowly die out. My own heart ached with it. He released his grip, only to grasp my shoulders again, staring intently. Are you afraid I'll make you my concubine? Don't be. I won't. I know that a person who could write, "May we live long and share the bright moon," could never bear to be a concubine. You could never bear to be trapped in a small corner. I didn't come to force you. I just want to know the truth. Can you just answer me honestly? He had always been so calm, so unhurried, his success from a young age giving him a natural pride. But now, in front of me, he had discarded all of it. He didn't even have his usual composure. He was like a young boy terrified of losing someone he loved, his voice filled with a desperate, humble plea. But I could only suppress all my emotions, all my pity, and tell him, "Eldest young master, you are thinking too much. Jukui has never, not for a moment, had any improper thoughts about you." I watched as the last spark in his eyes vanished completely. He dropped his hands. After a long moment, he turned and staggered away. I watched his retreating figure, and the tears I had held back finally fell. I had a night of fitful dreams, constantly pulled between reality and illusion. I dreamed of Lord Lu, I dreamed of Master Julian, and I dreamed of him. They were all calling my name. Two of them called Jikui, one called Lily. I knew they were calling me, but I couldn't answer any of them. It felt as if a lock was clamped on my throat, rendering me mute. I was jolted awake by a waiter knocking. He was calling from outside. "Boss, Zhangsheng from the Lu residence is here. He says he needs to see you." I was confused. Zhangsheng, what is he doing here so early? But I replied to the waiter, "All right, I know. Go receive him in the front hall. I'll be out after I change." When Zhangsheng saw me, his cold, distant demeanor from yesterday was gone. Before I could even ask, he spoke. "The eldest young master sent me to retrieve the orchids." "The orchids? What orchids?" Zhangsheng said. "The eldest young master said you promised to give him 2 pots of orchids yesterday. He forgot to take them when he left, so he sent me to get them." I finally remembered that I had promised this. But after all the drama, both of us had forgotten. I was surprised he still remembered and sent Zhangsheng. I didn't show much emotion and just said, "Oh that. Brother Zhangsheng, please wait a moment, I'll go get them." I picked the 2 best pots, placed them in a straw basket, and gave them to Zhangsheng. I wanted to ask him to stay for tea, but he declined. I didn't insist and just walked him to the door. "Zhang?" Sheng seemed to hesitate. He glanced at me, his eyes flickering. I asked him directly, "Brother Zhangsheng, is there something else you want to say?" Hearing this, Zhangsheng looked down and thought for a moment, then looked up. "Jikui, did you know? The Lu family is preparing to move the entire household to the capital." "What? When?" "Within the next few days. The eldest young master's return this time was partly for the second young master's wedding, but the most important task was this move." I asked again. "The entire Lu family is moving?" Zhangsheng replied, "While the old master is still alive, he only has the eldest master and second master as sons. And they, in turn, only have the eldest young master and second young master. So naturally, everyone must go." That's right. The 2 young masters, Elias and Julian, though cousins, were the only 2 male heirs of their generation. Now that Lord Lu was firmly established in the capital, he would of course need his family's support. "So, are all the servants going to the capital too?" Zhangsheng shook his head. "Not all. Only some of the main stewards and the younger, quicker servants. The older servants, by the Grand Matron's wishes, will be left in Yuzhou to look after the old residents." I thought for a moment, weighing my words, then said to Zhangsheng, "Brother Zhangsheng, I need to ask you for a favor." He replied quickly, "There's no need to ask for a favor, just tell me." Hearing what you just said, I'm guessing Mama Li is not on the list to go to the capital. She is old and in poor health. I want to ask if you can help me request permission from the masters to let me bring Mama Li here. I want to care for her. I should have gone myself, but my status is awkward. I was afraid showing up suddenly would displease the masters. So, I'm hoping you can ask on my behalf. Zhangsheng looked at me, his expression complex. A mix of relief and admiration. He ripped softly, "This is a small matter, don't worry, leave it to me." I bowed, deeply and sincerely. "Thank you." I have to say, Zhangsheng truly was Lord Lu's most reliable attendant. His efficiency was astounding. That very afternoon a rickety old carriage clattered over the bluestone path and stopped in front of the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. A person stepped out of the carriage. It wasn't Mama Lee, but Mama Wang. She got out, then reached back into the carriage, helping a trembling old woman down. It was none other than Mama Lee. It had only been a few years, but seeing her again, Mama Lee looked decades older. Her hair, once just streaked with silver, was now completely white. I rushed forward to support her. When she saw me, her thin, frail hands gripped mine tightly, her cloudy eyes brimming with tears. I felt a sting in my nose, and my vision blurred. I put my strength into holding up Mama Lee's frail body. Mama Wang stood beside us, her own eyes red. She said nothing, but the air was thick with unspoken emotion. Zhangsheng saw this and said, "Don't just stand here. Let's get Mama Lee inside so she can sit." Only then did I react, quickly helping both Mama Lee and Mama Wang into the restaurant. After helping them sit down, I stood before them, suddenly feeling as if I had 1,000 things to say but no idea where to begin. Mama Wang took my hand and saw the bracelet on my wrist, the very one she had given me. She looked at it and sighed. "Back then, I was so afraid you'd have no one to rely on outside. Afraid you wouldn't survive, that you'd end up wandering the streets. I never expected this child to be not only strong-willed, but so capable. Seeing you living so well now, I can finally rest easy." She gently patted my hand. I fought back the moisture in my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Mama Wang, I am so ashamed for all the worry I've caused you. It was my own willfulness that made you worry and go to so much trouble. It is all Zhuqi's fault." Mama Wang actually chuckled. "You silly girl. What is there to be ashamed of? I was never angry with you." She glanced at Mama Lee, then turned back and held my hand tighter. "You are a good child. You haven't forgotten your roots. I wasn't wrong about you. From now on, I'm entrusting Mama Lee to you. I don't need to say much, I know you will take good care of her. But, my child, listen to Mama. No matter how strong you are still a woman. Don't be too hard on yourself. Mama hopes you can find someone to rely on soon. Having a family, that is what's most important." Mama Wang was a key steward in the Liu family. Her husband and son were both valued by the masters. She would certainly be going to the capital with them. This separation, I didn't know if I would ever see her again in this lifetime. I knew she had come today not just to bring Mama Lee, but also to say goodbye to me, to see me one last time. I remembered when I first came to this world so helpless and confused. It was Mama Wang who taught me to garden, to embroider, to read. She taught me how to survive in this world, how to interact with people. It was she who arranged for who to work in the Boya courtyard, a place without schemes and filth, allowing me to grow up safely under Mama Lee's protection. It was also her who, despite being angry at my leaving without a word, still worried and arranged a fallback for me. I knew this goodbye was forever, and this debt of gratitude was one I could likely never repay. I knelt before Mama Wang and kowtowed 3 times, deeply and solemnly. "Thank you for your lifetime of kindness, for pitying my loneliness. Thank you for protecting me so I could grow up safely. Thank you for patiently teaching me etiquette, to know right from wrong. Thank you for helping me countless times. Thank you for all your care and concern." I looked up and said, "Mama Wang, Zhuqi understands." Mama Wang's eyes were brimming with tears. She gripped my hand tightly, repeating, Good child, good child." I arranged for Mama Lee to stay in the room next to mine so I could easily care for her. Mama Lee held my hand and said, "I have been alone my whole life, with no one to rely on. I never thought I would have this child to care for me in my old age. I truly don't know what to say. Good child, Mama. Mama thanks you, child." I quickly said, "Mama, what are you saying? You protected me when I was small, of course I must protect you when you are old. That is only natural, for you to say thank you. Aren't you making me feel ashamed?" Mama Lee said no more, only gripped my hand tightly, looking at me as tears streamed down her face. The Liu family moved quickly. In just 7 or 8 days, everything was packed and ready. Carriages piled high with luggage lined the street, clattering over the bluestone road. At the head of the procession were 2 striking figures. They rode tall horses, handsome and stylish, gracefully and politely acknowledging the cheers and well-wishes of the people lining the streets. The procession passed by the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. I stood in the crowd below, watching the men on horseback just like everyone else. I gently waved, seeing them off. Master Julian, on his horse, seemed to sense something. He turned his head slightly in my direction, raised his hand, and waved gently. I knew he was saying goodbye to me. I watched the procession move far away. It felt as if something else was leaving with them. Something I couldn't grasp, couldn't hold on to. Only later did I realize that something was my hazy, confusing and fearful past, a time of careful calculations and quiet terror. That year, I turned 20. The Liu family, moving their entire household, liquidated many of their properties to streamline management, including many prime shops. Many merchants seized this opportunity to expand. The Orchid Gentleman restaurant is no exception. I don't know if it was coincidence or luck, but every shop I set my sights on, whether to buy or rent, fell into my hands. Though surprised, I didn't overthink it. Some things are better left unquestioned. Looking at the new properties in my hands, I was filled with enthusiasm. I rolled up my sleeves, ready to start. And so, Lanjun Winery, Lanjun Textiles, and Lanjun Cosmetics opened one after another. At my suggestion, Hannah and Aaron merged their pastry shop with Lanjun Pastries. I provided the storefront, labor, and ingredients. Hannah was responsible for production and management. The prefect's wife, Lady Tessa Sue, frequently came to support my businesses. Every time she came, she would say, "My dear Zhuqi, Kwai, what new delicacies do you have this time? Bring them out for your big sister to see." Her words and actions were nothing like those of a high-ranking noblewoman. If she were a man, she'd probably be a regular at a brothel. And that nickname, Zhuqi Kui, every time I heard it, I got goosebumps. But I had no choice. I had to hold on to this powerful patron. I could only beam and reply, "Sister Tessa, of course I saved the best for you. Come. Look, this is a new pastry I've developed. It uses natural fruit sugars. It's sweet but light, not greasy or heavy. Perfect for someone with a sweet tooth like you. And this is a dessert soup I brewed, with sugared peaches, snow fungus, goji berries, papaya, and rock sugar cooked for 3 hours. It's wonderful for the skin in winter. And this?" Almost every time Lady Tessa would say, delicious, delicious. Zhuqi Kwai, give me one of everything." Thanks to her frequent patronage, everyone in Yuzhou knew that I and the prefect's wife were close. And the prefect doted on his wife and indulged her every whim. Because of this, my Lanjun businesses expanded, and no one dared to cause trouble anymore. The days passed by. In a flash, 5 years had gone by. Sister Hannah and Aaron were as loving as ever. They had a 4-year-old son, a 2-year-old daughter, and were now expecting another. My days were spent managing the businesses, caring for Mama Lee, and playing with the children when I was free. Life was truly peaceful and happy. But Mama Lee's health was failing. Ever since that severe illness years ago, her body had never fully recovered. We never stopped the medicine, but now, the end was finally here. Mama Lee lay on the bed, her face ashen. The doctors all came and just shook their heads. She tremblingly reached out to me. I took her withered hand in mine, tears falling like broken pearls. Mama Lee said, "Little one, don't cry. Mama has lived a full life. It's enough. I'm just worried about you." I knew what she was worried about. For the past 5 years, Mama Lee had constantly fretted about my personal life, but I always brushed it off. "Little one, you're a girl. A woman needs a family. Otherwise, no matter how big your business gets, what's the use if there's no one to inherit it? I was lucky to have you care for me at the end. But, little one, what about you? If you continue like this, when you are old, who will take care of you? Who will see you off?" I looked into her worried eyes, held her hand tightly, and told her, "Mama, don't worry. I will take good care of myself. I will also plan for the rest of my life. I will have a family too." Mama Lee gripped my hand, her eyes full of reluctance. She tried to hold on, but she had no strength left. Her hand fell limp. Little one, look, Mama brought you something good to eat." Little one, as a servant, you must know your place. Remember your status. Don't let the master's favor make you ambitious, or you'll end up like Bella. Little one, did you really make this coat yourself? It's so good. Mama loves it. Little one, now that you're with the eldest young master liar, you must serve him well. Don't worry about Mama. I'm fine. Little one, this is the money Mama saved for years. You take it. Little one, no matter how strong you are, you're just a girl. A woman needs someone to rely on. Listen to Mama. Let Mama find a good match for you. Little one, these are the things you didn't take. Mama kept them for you. Consider it part of your dowry from Mama. The memories flooded back like a tide. I knelt before Mama Lee, clutching her hand, my silent tears turning into choked sobs until finally, I couldn't hold back and wailed, "Mama Lee, don't go. Don't leave me. Without you, there's no one left in this world who cares for me. Mama, wake up and look at me. You haven't even seen me get married. Didn't you always want me to get married? I will. I'll listen to you. Just wake up and see me, please. Mama, can you get up? Mama, can you love me just one more time? Sister Hannah, pregnant, stood beside me, also weeping silently. Over the years, Sister Hannah had visited often, sometimes chatting with Mama Lee, sometimes sewing clothes for the children with her. And many times, she worried right alongside Mama Lee about my marriage prospects. As her adopted daughter, I gave Mama Lee a grand and proper funeral. I had been in business in Yuzhou for many years and had built a wide network. Many familiar shop owners and business partners came to pay their respects. For those few days, I was so busy I barely rested. After the funeral was over, I opened the box Mama Lee had left for me. Compared to the first time I saw it, there were many more things inside. She must have been scrimping and saving all these years. I began to think seriously about Mama Lee's words. She was right. I was still young, just over 20, healthy and full of energy. I could pour all my efforts into my business, into making the Orchid Gentleman restaurant grow. Perhaps I could become a legend, a legendary female merchant. But Mama was right. No matter how strong I was still just a woman. I would feel lonely. I truly wanted a family. A family isn't a house, or a business, or a lot of money. It's people. It's having loved ones by your side. That's what a family is. Before, when Mama was here, I had a family. But now that she was gone, I was alone again. Walking down the street, watching the people pass by. Couples holding hands, parents and children together, grandparents and grandchildren laughing. I felt an unprecedented loneliness. I had no one to rely on, nowhere to turn. Without realizing it, I had walked to a certain place. I looked up and saw the sign, Bureau of Benevolence. This was the official institution for taking in the elderly with no support and orphaned children. Inside, it was full of old people with no one to care for them, and young children with nowhere to go. I drifted inside. Perhaps this was fate. A middle-aged woman received me. Seeing I was well-dressed, she was very enthusiastic. When she heard my intention, that I wanted to adopt a child, she became even more eager and led me to a room. The room was packed with straw, mats, and blankets. More than a dozen children in ragged clothes were huddled together. I handed the bag of sweets I was carrying to the woman and asked her to distribute them. The children in the room swarmed forward, hands outstretched, begging for a treat. Each child who got a piece immediately stuffed it into their mouth, afraid it would be snatched away. Only one little girl, about 3 years old, who had managed to get a small piece, didn't eat it. Instead, she ran to a corner. Curious, I followed her. In the corner, I saw a young boy lying on the ground. His clothes were torn, his hair was a mess, and he was indescribably filthy. There was a dried blood stain on his forehead. The little girl carefully held the piece of candy to the boy's mouth, but the boy clamped his lips shut and tried to push the candy back to her. Seeing he wouldn't eat, the little girl grew so anxious she started to cry. "Big brother, please eat a little, just a little." The boy weakly soothed her. "Be good, you eat it, I'm not hungry, you eat." The two children pushed the tiny piece of candy back and forth. I stepped forward and handed the boy another piece. "Don't push anymore, there's one for each of you. Go on, eat." Only then did the two children eat. The woman in charge, seeing I had wandered off, hurried over to ask if I had chosen a child. I asked about the two of them. Why was the boy injured? Why was he lying alone on the ground without even a mat? From the woman, I learned that the two, 5 and 3 years old, were siblings. Their entire family had perished. The boy had led his little sister, wandering all the way to Yuzhou. He was so hungry that he stole a steamed bun for her. He was caught and beaten over the head. A kind person rescued them and brought them here. Because he was a thief. He was despised and pushed into this corner by the other children. I brought the two children back to the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. I named the boy Simon, and the girl Sylvia. The waiters in the restaurant were stunned to see me bring back 2 children. But after a moment, a look of understanding dawned on their faces. They sighed, then went back to work. Sylvia, washed and in clean clothes, stood before me, holding Simon's hand. She wanted to say something, but her face was bright red, and she couldn't get the words out. I spoke first. "You don't have to call me mother. I am not your mother. I brought you back and gave you new names simply to register you in the household. Since you have taken my surname, Yang, just call me Auntie." Hearing this, Simon led Sylvia in a proper, polite bow. "Auntie." I had a waiter, Xiao Lu, arrange a room for them and told him to take good care of them. I also told Steward Li to teach them some skills when he was free. As for me, I was busy handling all the business matters I had neglected since Mama Li's passing. Fortunately, the staff I had trained were all reliable. Because I had implemented a modern business culture and set clear regulations, the shops continued to run smoothly even without my direct intervention, which set my mind at ease. A year prior, Lady Tessa Su had left Yuzhou, following her husband, the prefect. At first, I was worried. My protector was gone. If someone caused trouble, what would I do? Unexpectedly, before I could even think of a way to get acquainted with the new prefect, this new prefect, Prefect Wang, came to visit me personally. He wore a simple black, trimmed robe, a belt embroidered with a peacock, and black deerskin boots. He looked calm and walked at a leisurely pace, followed by a young attendant, looking just like a wealthy man at leisure. I led him to the private bamboo room and served the best tea, wine, food and pastries, as if money were no object. I also secretly sent a waiter to find Steward Li and prepare a red envelope, just in case. As the saying goes, you don't hit a smiling face. Once he's eaten my food, he'll soften up. Once he's taken my money, he'll show me respect. I didn't know if it would work, but I had to show my goodwill. Unexpectedly, Prefect Wang just chuckled. Boss Yang, no need to be so nervous and no need to flatter me. I am not here today to take your money. Besides, even if you offered, I wouldn't dare accept. Prefect Wang, you are too kind. You are the parent of the people. We are just commoners. It is only right that we respect you. My voice was so sycophantic, it disgusted even me. Ha ha ha. Boss Yang, you are amusing. I'm telling you the truth. In all of Yuzhou, whoever becomes prefect, no one would dare to cause trouble for you. After saying this, ignoring my surprise and confusion, he raised his teacup to me. I quickly raised mine in response and drank. After seeing Prefect Wang off, I didn't feel relieved. I immediately went to make inquiries. For him to say that, someone powerful must be backing me. I had a few guesses, but I still wasn't sure. Who? But Prefect Wang was as slippery as an eel. He wouldn't reveal a single word, only saying that a noble person was helping me and I shouldn't worry. I returned, baffled, trying to figure out who it could be. Lost in thought, I bumped into a small figure, knocking a pile of books to the ground. Simon apologized profusely, looking terrified. I picked up the books. Besides the usual account ledgers, there was a copy of the classic of poetry. It must have been prepared for Sister Hannah's son, Tiger, but that boy lived up to his name. He was all brawn, and only liked martial arts. The moment he heard someone reading, he fell asleep. Hannah and I had tried reading to him a few times, but all we got were snores. We gave up on teaching him literature, and this book was left to gather dust. I held the book and asked Simon, "Have you been well these past few days? Has Steward Li been teaching you?" Simon answered shyly, "Yes, I'm well. Grandpa Li is teaching me to read the ledgers," he said. "He said I should learn accounting so I can help manage the shop later." Steward Li. And the others must think I adopted these two to train as my successors, to help me manage the Lanjun businesses. So teaching him this was the most logical step. I pointed to the classic of poetry and asked, "Do you know these characters?" Simon nodded. "Yes, I know some. Have you studied books before?" "Only the 1,000-character classic." I haven't finished the classic of poetry." I asked Simon, "Do you want to continue studying?" Hearing this, Simon's head shot up, his eyes shining. He nodded, but then immediately looked down, and shook his head. I wouldn't dare to dream of it. Being able to learn a trade from Grandpa Li is more than I could ask for. He must have gone through so much to be this somber at his age. I stroked his head and smiled. "Don't be afraid. I have adopted you, I won't abandon you, and I'm not raising you to be a shop helper. Since you call me Auntie, you should see me as one. You don't need to be so timid." I paused, then continued, "If you like studying, I'll find a school for you tomorrow. When Sylvia is old enough, I'll hire a tutor for her. You don't need to worry about the shop, just focus on your studies." Simon's eyes turned red, but he was a strong boy and just sniffled, his voice thick with emotion as he thanked me. I quickly arranged for Simon to enroll in a top academy in Yuzhou. It was the same one Master Elias and Master Julian had attended. I personally sewed him a new uniform, a new satchel, bought him new brushes, ink, paper, and an inkstone, and had Xiao Lu escort him to school, just like a little young master. Simon was different from Tiger. He had a gift for academics, and he was incredibly diligent. His grades improved rapidly. To give him a better environment, I bought a 3-courtyard residence and moved Simon and Sylvia in. They each had their own courtyard. I still wasn't comfortable with the idea of owning servants, so I hired staff just as I did for the restaurant, 7 or 8 older women and young attendants to manage house and care for them. I paid them well and gave good benefits, but the house rules were strict. Anyone who didn't fit was immediately dismissed. After a few turnovers, the household was peaceful and harmonious, as no one wanted to lose such a good job. Looking at this house, with the 2 characters, young residents, on the plaque, I felt satisfied. It wasn't as grand as the Lou residence, but it was a home I had built myself. It was quite large and quite wealthy. Time flew. In a flash, 10 years had passed. Simon had studied diligently for 10 years and had achieved some success, passing the county exam at 12, just like Master Elias. But under my care for 10 years, he finally understood he wouldn't be abandoned. His timid personality gradually changed. Though still serious and rarely smiling, he was much more relaxed. I, in turn, had developed a bad habit. I couldn't stop teasing him. Sometimes, when he was engrossed in a book, I would bring him a bowl of mung bean or lotus seed soup and force him to stop and drink it all. Sometimes, I would replace the energizing incense in his room with calming incense, so he couldn't study for more than 2 shichinai 4 hours, without falling asleep at his desk. Sometimes, would drag him and Sylvia out to go hiking or shopping. I'd have Sylvia play her newly learned songs for him and force him to critique them. If his critique wasn't good, I'd punish him by making him copy Shuidiao Jaitu 50 times, or write Sylvia is the smartest, cutest, kindest, and most beautiful girl in the world 100 times. Of course, he always chose the first option, which made Sylvia puff out her cheeks and glare at her brother Arthur, only to then deliberately bother him while he was writing his lines. Faced with our antics, Simon would just give a helpless smile, chide us half-heartedly, and then play along. As for Sylvia, I had no intention of turning her into a modern woman. I hired tutors to teach her to read, write, play music, paint, and manage a household. All the skills of a lady in this era. I only told her that, as a woman, she must first learn to love herself. Only then would others love her, and only then would she be worthy of love. Sister Hannah's eldest son, Tiger, continued his martial arts, eventually taking a master, and looked more and more impressive. Her second daughter, Heidi, was Sylvia's age. They studied together and were as close as sisters. Her third son, David, was quiet and studious, but had no gift for academics. He did, however, have a keen interest in numbers, so after a few years of school, he began apprenticing with Steward Lai. Autumn passed, spring came, summer left, winter arrived. In the blink of an eye, Simon turned 18. He had sharp brows, bright eyes, a high nose, and thin lips. He was the center of attention wherever he stood. He had a noble air, a tall, strong frame, and handled matters with growing steadiness. Soon, he would be going to the capital for the imperial examinations. Xiao Lu brought a large pile of high-grade wool. Sister Hannah and I made 2 sets of wool-lined knee and elbow pads, and sewed 2 large, thick, warm bags. The Lanjun textile shop, under my orders, paused all other work to focus on making new clothes for Simon and his attendants. Besides his 2 attendants and Xiao Lu, I also had Tiger accompany Simon to the capital, both to protect him and to broaden his own horizons. This time, I saw Simon off at the river dock. Sylvia supported me, her eyes brimming with tears as she looked at her brother. Thinking of this child, who had always been by my side, leaving for a faraway place, I couldn't help but feel the pang of a mother bird watching her fledgling leave the nest. I nagged the attendants to take good care of Simon, not to let him get cold, hot, thirsty, or hungry. I reminded Tiger to be careful and not to take risks if they encountered trouble. Then I repeated to Simon to take care of his health, not to get hurt or sick, and not to put too much pressure on himself. Do your best. If you don't pass, time. Simon's eyes were moist. He listened patiently to my rambling, then bowed his head and said softly, I will remember. Mother. I froze. What did you call me? Simon pulled Sylvia forward. In front of Sister Hannah, Aaron, Steward Lee, and our other close friends, he performed a formal kowtow. Mother, please accept your son's bow. He bowed 3 times. For so many years, you have worked hard to raise my sister and me, treating us as your own. You taught us, never blamed us, never spoiled us. You did everything for us, more than a birth mother could. Without you, we would not be here today, let alone be able to study and take the exams. Even if our lives were intact, we would not be who we are. Though you are not our birth mother, in our hearts you are our mother. I am leaving this time, the journey is long, and I will be gone for months. Please, mother, take care of your health. Add clothes in the morning and evening, eat well, don't catch cold. Don't overtire yourself, and don't worry. I will do my best to bring honor to the Yang name. Then he turned to Sylvia. Sister, you are grown up now. While I am gone, you must take good care of mother. Sylvia's eyes were red. She nodded. Yes, brother, I know. Don't worry. I will take good care of her. After saying their goodbyes, Simon finally boarded the boat, waving as he departed. For several days after Simon left, the study was silent without his daily reading. I felt very unused to it. Sylvia stayed by my side every day to comfort me, sometimes teasing, Mother, are you missing Big Brother again? It's only been a few days, and you miss him this much. Did you forget you still have me? Am I not as lovable as my bookworm brother? I laughed and pinched her cheek. You little imp. Now you're bad-mouthing your brother. How shameless. Sylvia just preened. It's the truth. I am much cuter and more lovable than he is. Yes, you're right. Sylvia is the cutest. After Sylvia had teased her brother for the 10th time, and I had pinched her nose a dozen times, calling her calling her little imp, news from Simon finally arrived. Mistress, good news, good news. The young master passed. He passed with high honors. He's the Zhuangyuan's top scholar. The young attendant ran straight into the courtyard, completely out of breath. Breathe slowly, I said. Speak clearly, mistress, the young master. He passed the second rank, he's the Zhuangyuan. The attendant was so flustered his accent was slipping, but I didn't care. I pressed him. Is it true? When is the young master coming home? The attendant finally caught his breath. Yes, it's true. The official announcement from the Yemen is on its way. This was just the advance notice. The young master must go to the palace to thank the emperor and receive his reward before he can return home. It will be a few days. I was impatient. The good news is here. What are you waiting for? Prepare the Thanksgiving ceremony. Firecrackers. Red silk. Yes. I'll go right away. The attendant ran off again. I thought to myself, he must be exhausted. I'll have to reward him generously later. Sylvia was ecstatic. Before I could even organize things, she took charge, directing the servants to clean the front hall, prepare for the reception, and send the good news to Sister Hannah. Everything was arranged perfectly. I gladly let her take over. My daughter had truly grown up. From that day on, the matchmakers arrived in an endless stream. Those prestigious local families, who had once despised me as a former slave and later as an proper merchant woman, now wanted to connect our families through marriage. However, they only offered their secondary daughters or distant nieces. I, of course, refused them all. I used the excuse that Simon was not my biological son, so I could not make such a life-altering decision for him. He had to be the one to nod his head. I turned every matchmaker away. After a few days, whenever someone was announced, Sylvia would reflexively ask, is it another one of those annoying matchmakers? It's so tiresome. But this time, the attendant replied, no, mistress, young miss. It's the young master. The young master is home. Simon arrived on a tall horse, dressed in a magnificent red robe with a red flower pinned to his chest. Officials cleared the path. Gongs and drums sounded, just like a groom on his wedding day. The gates of the young residence were packed with people, all jostling to get a look at the Tanhua Lang, the third scholar. The crowd was immense. Simon dismounted at the gate. Just as I was about to step out to greet him, he lifted his robes and knelt directly in front of me. The entire crowd fell silent. Only Simon's clear voice could be heard. Honored mother, your son went to the capital for the examinations. By His Majesty's grace, I was selected as the Tanhua, the third scholar. I have, thankfully, not brought disgrace upon the Yang family name. I return today to formally thank my mother for her years of nurture, guidance, and unwavering grace. That single word, mother, and that phrase, the Yang family. This act was a public declaration of my status. It was his declaration of loyalty. The crowd was silent, then erupted in murmurs, and finally, in cheers for the Tanhua Lang. The stories that followed, of how everyone praised the Tanhua Lang for his filial piety and his refusal to forget his adoptive mother, those were all tales for the teahouses, for another time. I let Simon rest first, not rushing to ask questions. Only that evening did I tell him about the matchmakers. Simon simply said, that was to be expected. I asked, well, do you have any intentions? Is there a girl you have in mind? If there is, I said, mother can go and propose the match for you. Simon pressed his lips together, lowering his head in thought, his face turning slightly red. My heart skipped. It seems there really is someone. Don't be afraid. Tell me, When he remained silent, I thought she must be from a low-status family. I added, "Don't worry. As long as you like her, her status doesn't matter to me. As long as she has good character and will treat you well, even if she's a maid or a farmer's daughter, I will go and ask for her hand. Don't worry about gossip, this is our life. As long as we are happy, that's all that matters." Hearing this, Simon looked up and shook his head. "Mother, you've misunderstood. I was planning to tell you. I was just trying to figure out how to explain it." He began his story. After arriving in the capital, he had impressed a high official who invited him to stay at his residence to prepare for the exams. During that time, he received much guidance. While there, he encountered a beautiful young lady. She was alone, trying to pick a spring plum blossom, but she was too small and couldn't reach. He helped her. The girl thanked him and left, clutching the branch. The gentle way she looked at that flower, it sent a ripple through his heart. But he was a guest in another's home and couldn't inquire about her. He could only sigh that it was a fated meeting with no future. But then, after he passed the exam, that very same high official expressed his intention to marry his daughter to him. Simon couldn't refuse outright, so he said that such an important matter must be reported to his mother. The official agreed but said that since he was already there, they might as well meet, which would make it easier to explain to me. The official called for his daughter, and when Simon saw her clearly, he froze. It was the same girl who had picked the plum blossom. Simon looked at me, blushing slightly. "Mother, I truly am moved. But the young lady's surname is Lu. She is the only daughter of Lord Lu, and the only child of Lady Lu. Her status is incredibly high. Even as the Tangwa I am still marrying far above my station. So I wanted to ask your opinion. What did you say her surname was? Lu." I didn't quite hear the rest of what Simon said. I only heard Lord Lu and I froze. A major figure in the capital, an only daughter with the surname Lu. Could it be a coincidence? Simon, surprised by my reaction, answered seriously, "Yes, Lu. I am speaking of the current Grand Counselor, Lord Wenjin Lu." He added, strangely, "Lord Lu is also from Yuzhou. He grew up there." At this, Simon suddenly stopped. He asked cautiously, "Mother, is this Lord Lu an old acquaintance of yours?" I suddenly remembered that Shuidiao Jitu poem, the signature I had cut off and burned. Wenjin Lu. I was lost in thought for a long time. I looked at Simon's anxious, hopeful eyes and finally, my heart softened. So be it. Some people, some events, some fates, you cannot avoid them. I smiled and stroked his head, just as I did when he was small. Since you like her, Mother naturally has no objections. But Miss Nina Lu is, after all, a high-born lady. You must never betray her. Simon replied, "Mother, rest assured, if I marry her, I will never fail her in this life." I settled my household affairs, leaving David in charge of the businesses, and then took Sylvia and Simon to the capital. Heidi held Sylvia's hand, unwilling to let go. David just watched us, silent. After saying goodbye, Sister Hannah began to nag endlessly, reminding Tiger to be sharp and to protect us. Tiger was so nagged he kept shooting desperate looks at Simon and me. I laughed, finally stopping Hannah's fussing, and led everyone onto the boat. The capital, every inch of land is worth an inch of gold. Before leaving, I had liquidated some of my assets. I brought almost my entire fortune with me. I finally managed to buy a 3-courtyard residence and had it redecorated. Only after everything was settled did I have Simon take me to the Lu residence to formally propose. The Lu residence was in the inner city, near the Imperial Palace, a prime location. The dark, modest gate was unassuming, but the inside was breathtaking. Just past the entrance was a Mount Tai stone screen, standing on a carved marble base, flanked by jade-inlaid planters. A 9-turn corridor connected the courtyards, its eaves carved with lifelike flowers, birds, and fish. The rockeries and ancient trees were arranged with exquisite taste. It was even more elegant than the Lu residence in Yuzhou. The attendant serving Lady Lu didn't lead me to the guest hall, but directly to the main hall of the master's courtyard. I had just sat down when a woman entered and took the main seat. Her face was very pale, her features beautiful, but her body was frail. She was flanked by 2 well-dressed women, standing respectfully. The woman in the center was, of course, Lady Lu. The 2 beside her were also quite beautiful. They didn't look like servants, but they were very deferential to the lady, and they looked familiar. I looked closer and saw they were secretly glancing at me. Though my memory isn't great, I recognized them, Ivy and Jasmine, the 2 maids I had trained to serve Master Elias just before I left the residence. Old acquaintances. But we couldn't speak. I didn't know what Lady Lu intended by this, but I braced myself. Lady Lu's Alara was indeed frail. She sat for a moment before lifting her tea. "Mrs. Yang, please have some tea." I took a sip. "Thank you, my lady, it's excellent tea." Lady Lu coughed softly twice. "Mrs. Yang, you have come today, presumably, for the matter of our children's marriage." "Yes, my lady. I have heard that your daughter is virtuous, intelligent, and refined, so I have come to propose a match. Although my son is not exceptional, he has studied a little and has been recognized by His Majesty. I hope you will consider him." Lady Lu waved her hand gently. "Mrs. Yang, you are too kind. This marriage was decided by Lord Lu himself. I have no objections. Your visit today is merely a formality. There's no need for such pleasantries." She coughed again, took a sip of tea, and continued, "I have only this one daughter. Naturally, I dote on her. She may be a bit spoiled. After she marries into your family, if she misspeaks, I hope you will find it in your heart to forgive her." The more she spoke, the more humble she became. The wife of a grand counselor, being so modest toward me, a mere merchant. I was truly moved. Then at Ivy and Jade, Ivy gave me a slight, subtle nod. I replied to Lady Lu, "My lady, please rest assured. I will certainly treat your daughter as my own. And I promise you this, unless they are without a child after 7 years, I will absolutely not permit Simon to take a concubine." When Lady Lu heard this, her eyes immediately reddened. I sighed internally. If not for the cursed customs of this time, would it really matter if one never had children? This era is so unfair to women. After concluding the marriage talks, I prepared to leave. Lady Lu said, "I should see you out, but my health is poor and I cannot be in the wind." She gestured to Ivy and Jade. "Please let Concubine Du and Concubine Z see you out on my behalf." They bowed. "Yes, my lady." As Ivy and Jade walked me out, we finally had a chance to talk. We chatted as we walked. When I had trained them, I'd thought of them as little sisters. Seeing them again, I couldn't help but ask, "Have you both been well all these years? How has the young master, I mean, Lord Lu, treated you? Is the lady easy to get along with? I heard you both have children. Are they well?" Ivy and Jade looked at each other, then at me and smiled. Ivy took my hand. "Sister Zhuqi, don't worry, we are doing well. Lord Lu, he has been cold to everyone for years. Even with the lady, it is mostly just respect and etiquette. With us, while there isn't much doting, he has not taken any other concubines. We have the status we are due, and the lady, though frail, is from a noble family. She is dignified, and she is not harsh on us or our children." Jade nodded in agreement. "That's good, that's good." I held their hands, my eyes misty. As we were talking, we heard a commotion. 2 handsome young men, one in blue and one in indigo, were walking toward us, laughing and talking. Before I could ask, they arrived and bowed politely to Ivy and Jade. "Greetings, Concubine Du, greetings Concubine Z." Ivy introduced me, and they bowed to me as well before moving on. Ivy told me the young man in indigo was her son, Silas Lu. But because Lady Lu had no children, Silas had been registered as her son since birth. The young man in blue was the eldest son of the second master, Julian. His name was Harry Lu. We continued walking. As we passed a garden, a breeze carried the fresh scent of orchids. I smiled. "I'm surprised to see so many orchids in the capital. It truly is a noble house." Ivy said, "The weather is nice, so the attendants must have brought them out from the greenhouse to get some sun. These orchids are the Lord's treasure. He brought them from Yuzhou himself, many years ago. We heard from Zhang Sheng that they were a gift from an old friend. He hasn't even been willing to change the pots all these years. We've no idea who this old friend is, to be so valued by him." "Sister Zhuqi, I know you love orchids. Would you like to see them?" I replied. "No, that's all right. Since they are so precious to him, I wouldn't dare impose. I should hurry back and tell Simon the good news. You two take care." Simon's wedding was set for the middle of summer. I prepared for the wedding meticulously. I even invited Sister Hannah's entire family to the capital for the celebration, bringing along the chefs and bakers from the Orchid Gentleman restaurant. On the wedding day, the entire residence was flooded in red silk, red characters, red lanterns everywhere. A red carpet stretched from the main hall all the way out the front gate. Simon, in his bright red wedding robes, rode a tall horse, leading an 8-bearer palanquin to fetch his bride. The streets were packed with onlookers. I had prepared baskets of copper coins to toss to the children and beggars, adding to the festive air. The bride, covered by her red veil, was graceful and slender. I sat in the seat of honor. Amidst the admiring and congratulatory gazes of our guests, I calmly accepted the bows from the newlyweds. Time passes so quickly. On the day of the eldest young master's wedding, All those years ago, I had left the Lu residence. In the blink of an eye, he and I were both parents. And now, we were in-laws. The day after the wedding, Simon brought his bride, Nina Lu, to serve me tea. "Mother, please accept your daughter-in-law's tea." I accepted the cup, took a sip, and handed her a red envelope. I pulled her closer to get a better look. Nina was truly beautiful, resembling her mother, Elara, in 7 parts, inheriting her stunning beauty. But her eyes were just like her father's, Elias's. Yet, unlike his calm, deep gaze, hers were bright and pure. I took her hand and slipped a jade bracelet from my wrist onto hers. She tried to refuse. I said, "Nina, my own mother passed away early, and I wasn't from a noble family, so I have no heirlooms to give you. This bracelet was a gift from an elder long ago. It's not valuable, just a memento." Nina glanced at Simon. When he nodded, she accepted it. Perhaps because her own mother was so frail, Nina seemed a bit timid and anxious when she first arrived. I genuinely adored this daughter-in-law. When Simon was busy, I had Sylvia take her out, hiking in the suburbs or shopping in the city. She was, after all, just a teenager. In just a few days, she seemed to transform, becoming much more lively. One day, while I was in the garden dividing orchids with Sylvia and Nina, the steward hurried in. He announced that someone had come to propose marriage for the young miss, and that they claimed to be an old acquaintance. Ever since Simon's wedding, I had been thinking about Sylvia's marriage. My original plan was to return to Yuzhou and find a family we knew, with a clean reputation. But now Simon was an official in the capital. If she married back in Yuzhou, the family would be split. But if we arranged a marriage in the capital, we didn't know anyone. We'd have to rely on matchmakers, and it would be impossible to know the truth about the other party. If she were tricked, it would ruin her life. Hearing that someone had come to propose, and that it was an old acquaintance, I didn't dare delay. I quickly changed and went to the main hall. As soon as I entered, I heard a familiar voice and a nickname I hadn't heard in ages. "My dear Zhuqi Kuai. Long time no see." Who else could it be but Lady Tessa Su? I couldn't help but shoot her a look. "Sister, compose yourself. We have guests." She stopped laughing. Right. We're here on serious business." She then pushed 2 people forward. One was the second young master, Julian. The other was the young man I had seen in the Lu residence garden, Harry, who I realized must be Julian's son. I looked at Julian. It had been many years. His face showed no signs of hardship, not even a gray hair. He had just grown a beard, making him look more mature. I bowed. "Master Julian." He returned the courtesy. "Hiki. It has been a long time." After the greetings, Lady Tessa spoke first. "Zhuqi Kuai, we are here today for serious business. See this young man. Handsome, isn't he? Top-notch scholar, too. Passing the provincial exam is just a matter of time. And your daughter, I saw her once in the suburbs. Beautiful, and a wonderful aura. Nina also says she's a good girl. So, how about marrying your daughter to my nephew?" I was already surprised to see Tessa and Julian together. Hearing this, I had to interrupt. "Nephew. You too?" Tessa pointed at Julian. "My mother and his mother are biological sisters. He's my younger cousin, so isn't his son my nephew?" Now it was my turn to be stunned. No wonder Lady Tessa, a high-ranking official's wife, had been so friendly with me back then. It must have been partly because of the Lu family. Julian spoke up. "Jiqui, I've brought my son here today. See if he meets your standards and your daughter's. If so, let's settle this marriage." So direct. Seeing me hesitate, Julian pressed. "What is it? You don't approve of my son?" No, that's not it. It's just, your family is so noble. We are just a small family. We can't marry that high." I waved my hands frantically. "You're afraid your daughter will be mistreated after marrying up. Afraid others will look down on her." Yes, I wanted to say, because he was exactly right. But I just smiled and said, "Not at all." Julian saw this and signaled his son. Harry stood and bowed to me. "Mrs. Yang, please rest assured, if I marry Sylvia, I will protect her, cherish her, and respect her. I will not let her suffer the slightest grievance, and I will absolutely not allow anyone to harm her in any way." I looked at Harry. His expression was serious, his words sincere. It didn't seem like an act. I was just curious. They had never met. How could he be so heartfelt? Tessa saw my confusion and giggled. That day in the suburbs, Harry was there too. So, both my son and my daughter had been targeted by this pair. I couldn't help but shoot Julian a look. Julian scratched his nose, a bit embarrassed. "Jiqui, putting that aside, I'm already here. What do you say about this marriage?" Looking at Harry's hopeful eyes, I couldn't refuse. I took a deep breath. "While I am Sylvia's mother, I do not want to force her. This marriage must have her consent. Tessa and Julian were not old-fashioned. They seized the opportunity. Since we're all here, let the two of them meet. If they like each other, we'll settle it. I had nothing more to say. I just asked the steward to make arrangements for them to meet in the garden pavilion. Sylvia, the daughter I had raised for over a decade, was not shy at all. She walked confidently to the pavilion. I don't know what they talked about, but I could hear occasional laughter. Tessa and Julian were, of course, overjoyed. I just felt like the precious cabbage I had painstakingly raised was being stolen by a pig. Sylvia had a good impression of Harry. She said he was calm, knowledgeable, kind-hearted, and thoughtful. A truly good match. And so, the year after Simon's wedding, my Sylvia was also married. The wedding was set for the 3rd month of the following spring. With the date set, I began preparing her dowry. I personally designed her wedding robes. The top, grade red brocade, was soft yet flowed beautifully. The cloak was embroidered with a phoenix and peonies. The top, a pair of mandarin ducks. The skirt, lotus flowers. The shawl, auspicious clouds in gold thread. I even had auspicious characters embroidered in a special red thread, invisible unless they caught the light. I ordered all the embroiderers at the Lan Jun textile shop to halt their other work and focus on this dress. It took half a year to complete. In 2 lifetimes, I had never worn a wedding dress of my own. I could only pour all my hopes and dreams into Sylvia's. On her wedding day, her dress stunned the entire capital. It also unexpectedly made my textile shop famous. I took the entire box of savings Mama Lee had left me, and 1/3 of all my Lan Jun businesses, and gave them to Sylvia as her dowry. This was planned long ago. I had divided my businesses into 3 parts, one for Simon, one for Sylvia. The last third part was for my own retirement, part was for Sister Hannah's 3 children, and the rest was for charity, buying supplies for the Bureau of Benevolence, reinforcing dikes for the farmers, building bridges, repairing roads, and setting up congee sheds during disasters. I have tried to do good in this life, hoping only that in the next, I might meet him again and make up for all our regrets. Sylvia's dowry consisted of 120 chests, stretching down the street. It was a magnificent sight. With these assets, and with what I had taught her, I knew that even if Harry treated her poorly, she would be able to live a stable life. But my worries were unnecessary. After their marriage, Sylvia and Harry were very happy and had 4 sons. Added to the 2 sons and 1 daughter from Nina and Simon, these children, they made this old woman tired, but so full of love. I never expected that after transmigrating into a lowly maid, I would one day enjoy the blessing of a house full of children and grandchildren. In the late spring of my 58th year, I was in the garden dividing orchids when I fell backward. I hit the poplar tree behind me, sending a shower of catkins to the ground. Simon and Sylvia, with all their children, stood by my bed. The doctor took my pulse, shook his head and sighed. The old matron has overworked her mind and body for many years. Her spirit is exhausted. The oil in her lamp has run dry. Simon and Sylvia both grabbed the doctor, weeping, begging him to save me. I called out to them. You two are grown now. Why are you acting like children in front of your own children? Sylvia's tears fell like broken pearls. Mother. Simon was also weeping. I took their hands. Don't cry. Listen to me. In this life, I had you 2 wonderful children. I am content. When parents are alive, you still have a place to return to. When they are gone, you only have the road ahead. From now on, you 2 must rely on each other. Your Aunt Hannah is a good person. If you return to Yuzhou, you must visit her. I called Nina and Harry closer. I looked into their eyes. You are both so good. So good. I couldn't finish my sentence, my vision blurred. After a moment, I saw someone in front of me, holding out his hand. He was wearing a white t-shirt and black pants, and in his other hand was an ice cream cone. Lily, I've come to take you home. I smiled and reached out. Wenjin Yang, you finally came. I've been waiting for you for so long. The poplar tree in the courtyard dropped the last of its spring catkins. Epilogue. It is said that on the day Minister Yang's mother passed away, an old man of extraordinary bearing stood on the street corner opposite the Yang residence, holding a pot of orchids. The orchid was perfectly cared for, but the pot was ancient and worn. He held the pot and stared at the gate. A curious onlooker drew near and heard him mutter, "It turns out, the one she was yearning for was not me." On the same day, in the orchid room of the most famous restaurant in the capital, another refined and elegant old man ordered every pastry on the menu. He drank until he was completely drunk. He wept, then laughed, then mumbled to himself, "In the next life, I will find you sooner." Lillian's story teaches that true strength is the courage to define your own destiny. She refused to be a possession, instead building an empire and a family founded on love and respect. She proves that freedom isn't given, it is earned through resilience, intelligence, and an unwavering belief in one's own worth. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.